What up, though, One Pride? This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where One Pride goes worldwide. My name is Anthony Fitzpatrick. I'm joined this evening by Ryan McCluskey, which can only mean one thing. It is time for your weekly dose of college knowledge. Yes, it is the college football podcast. Dillon, Duck, and Ryan, it's what we've been waiting for all season. Finally, it has arrived. In 2 short days' time, in about 48 hours, the 12-team FBS Playoffs begins for the first time. And I don't know about you, but the more I've been waiting for this, the more excited I've been getting. We are in for some crackerjack games. I don't know about you, but I can't wait for him to be here.
Yep, I am very excited. I think it's safe to say the FCS playoffs have not pacified me. They've become less and less close, and yeah, they've become a bit one-sided. They've become very top-heavy as expected. I just don't think that'll happen in the FBS. I think we're guaranteed at least one big upset. I hope so anyway. That's the point of expansion. If it goes down the line of you end up with your top four seeds, I think I'd be very disappointed.
Yeah.
Then I question the expansion altogether.
Yeah. I think we need this, and it was really intriguing because I was doing the previews for these today, and I didn't actually realize one of the benefits probably of these playoffs as well is we're going to get matchups that are so seldom often seen. Out of all four ties coming up this weekend, the most recent iteration of any of those games between these sides was 1996. So we're seeing matchups between teams, big teams who just never play one another. So maybe, if anything, that also might be a benefit of having these expanded playoffs.
Yeah, a lot of these teams, let's say outside of conference, like say where a lot of teams like to schedule their cupcake games, they're never going to schedule the big boys, are they? Because they don't want the loss on them. So yeah, all these guys will. Some have very rarely played each other the last decades. Some may have never played each other, but this will now, going forward in the future, out of conference games are going to have to get harder and better because the committee will have to take that in. Because we're all talking about, oh, SOS, strength of schedule. It's time to start improving, booking up your ideas, boys. Pull your socks up. No, don't put Mercer in November. Like I say, put in an Iowa, put in a West Virginia SEC team. Start putting in the ACC and the Big 12 in October, November, not FCS teams or Power 4, because in the end of the day, the SOS and your strength of victory will go a long way to determining who gets spots 10 to 14 in the upcoming. The days of just stat padding are over.
Yeah, and if you're in a weak conference, a la the Big Ten right now, you're not going to get a big strength of schedule even in conference. So you're kind of going to want to
You're gonna
bring
have
in
to
some
go for
big
some
guns.
big, yeah, Big 12 SEC teams.
Yeah, you're going to want to supplement that. But anyhow, we will go through all this. So we've got a lot lined up for today. We've got some news to go through. Obviously, there's coaching hires, there's the transfer portal going absolutely crazy, hence the title of the show today, one of the particular transfers that we're all excited over. We're going to look at the FBS playoffs as well. And then we're going to take an initial look as well at the 2025 NFL draft. Now, we're still at the point where not that many guys have declared right now. Like it's still coming in steadily but surely,
January
but there
4th,
are,
I think, is
yeah,
underclassmen.
underclassmen's January the 6th. And we've got about 32 already. Like high profile underclassmen. There's a lot of people declaring before they should do. A lot of juniors this year declaring up. So it's intriguing, but we're going to have a little look at the lay of the land, which classes we think are going to be strong, which classes we think are going to be not so strong, maybe what the Lions' needs are there, what we need to start looking at, just little bits like that as well. So if you have any draft related questions or anything this evening that you want us to, well, either we can answer today or we can go away and do our research on, just let us know. I know Grandize is in the chat at the minute. Brent is in there as well. Brent, commiserations. We'll try and go easy on you when talking about the game later, but that's payback for last year in Air Force. There you go. So let's just get the housekeeping out of the way, and then we'll dive down into this. So Roar of the Lions UK Discord, if you want in on that, let us know. We will fire you across a link for that. The main podcast, it's a double dip evening again today. So once this is done, we'll have a little break, and then we'll be back later with the Chicago Bears preview podcast. Looking forward to that. So do come join us to talk some Lions as well today. Don't forget to like and sub to everything, Twitch, YouTube, all that good stuff. We're just over 1,800 on YouTube now, so thank you for everyone who's supported us there. try and get that up to 2,000 by the end of the year or the end of the NFL season, hopefully going into draft season there. Don't forget about Lions Nation Unite as well. We're part of that Herman Moore's project to bring together a whole host of Detroit Lions content creators into one forum to talk everything and anything Detroit Lions. Don't forget, we're an affiliate on Twitch, we're monetized on YouTube, all that good stuff. If you want to help us that way, great. But first and foremost, we just like having you here to talk Lions football and to talk college ball. Right, we've got that all out the way. I will dive into Twitch as well soon. So if you're watching on Twitch, I will get to your comments shortly. All right, we're going to go into some news first and a couple of coaching hires. Intriguing coaching hires, let's say, this week. And you might think, these are random ones to focus on, considering there's that many teams around college football. But just some that we wanted to shed a bit of light on here, just maybe for the future. And one of the very intriguing hires, Ryan, this week, given that the team itself is supposedly about to make the jump up to the FBS. It's got a lot of money behind it. It's traditionally been a good team that's been taking scalps in the Power Four recently. And it's got a brand new shiny head coach who I think is going to become an absolute superstar on the back of this team. We're talking about the UNLV offensive coordinator, Brennan Marion. I suggested he might go to a power team to be an offensive coordinator, and he was getting looks for it, but he's decided to go and be a head coach instead, and he has picked the Sacramento State Hornets as his destination. The Go-Go is going to Sacramento. Right, I feel like this is going to be an incredibly successful hire, and you're going to look at him, and he's going to create a huge name for himself here and be one of the hot tickets in a few years' time. So his go-go scheme, he masterminded the fifth best rushing offense in the FBS this season using a variety of his running backs, his receivers, his quarterbacks, and this Hornets team that he's inheriting. It's not been the best year for them. They ranked 17th in passing offense, but they ranked 75th when it comes to their rushing game. So you inject the go-go into this system, you fix that, you keep the passing game going, you have the makings of possibly one of the fiercest offenses in college football, right? And this is a team that has got 50 million in NIL funds now put up behind it. It's going to make the jump to the newly formed Pac or the Mountain West soon. And this feels like we could be about to witness the beginning of something special with this hire for Sac State.
Yeah, I love it. I saw the rumors a couple of hours before about them interviewing Michael Vick, and I shuddered. I thought, please don't do that. Oh God, Norfolk State, why have you done that? Oh, I just would have avoided him like the plague. I say so they'd made a good decision. Do you know what? I love it. I love sometimes you have to essentially take a step back to make two steps forward, dropping down a level to a program that, like I say, is very well respected. It's very well funded. If you skip this year, a couple of years before that, good runs in the playoffs. The former head coach actually got the Stanford job, didn't he, 2 years ago? So that someone like say took that job and then managed to get one of the biggest academic football and school jobs in the country. Like it is a great path. If he can go in year one, get them back in the FCF playoffs, and then have a run using his expanded offense that say it can narrow it out, it can spread it out, it can do everything. It can be all encompassing under center from the power, wildcat, everything. Like I said, and it's now an incredibly attractive position for a transfer portal quarterback if they need one, or if they want to bring someone in to suit the style. Suddenly, someone's just going to look at him and think he may do really well for my draft stock because the offense he plays is fun, it's expansive, and it can score quite heavily. I think it's a great fit for someone in their mid-30s that he is. Like I say, that doesn't need to be head coach for another couple of years. I think it's a great stepping stone. I totally get it.
Yeah, I do as well. And, when they come up, like you've got the name, you've got the potential to make a name for yourself quick. So it may just seem a random team to focus on, but honestly, you do need to follow this guy's career. He will be a big head coaching hire one day, and his system is unique. So we will keep a close eye on the Sac State Hornets going forward, but tremendous appointment for them hiring Brennan Marion. And then actually, I'm a fan of this as well. So UNLV lost their head coach, and now they've lost him, and they've got a new staff coming in this year, and they've managed to pull off the hiring of Dan Mullen. He's the new head coach at UNLV. He's got over 100 victories in his 13-year career with Miss State and Florida. He has over 50 wins in the SEC. He's been out the game since 2021 when he was fired by Florida. He's been working partially as a TV analyst. He's been
Wasn't
doing
with
some,
ESPN.
yeah, he's
Okay.
been there. He's been doing some coach. He's been doing some coaching as well at Lake Oconee Academy. I think it's high school. He's been doing some work with the younger guys, but he now feels ready to get back into coaching. It's been a couple of years, and years ago, before the last two head coaches got to UNLV, we talked about it as a place where it was a bad program, it was a losing program, it was a program who had nothing really going for it, which is now a annual contender for the Mountain West, and they've just pulled off the signing of a guy who has 50 wins plus in the SEC. They're not a joke to be made of anymore, right? This is a good hire for them, regardless of what happened in Mullen's time at the end of Florida. This is another one you've got to look at and go, it's a good decision. Will it pay off? We don't know, but it just goes to show their standing has gotten so far up in the game now that they've got him.
Yeah. Makes sense. It feels like two parties that kind of need each other. Dan Mullen was close to being forgotten. Like I said, if he'd left it another year or two, he may have not got back in any cycle. I think, like you say, he had the stint, like I say, as an analyst. I watched him on some commentary on some games and that. Like I say, it never felt like it was for him. Like I say, the Florida, all them years ago, yes, they were right to get rid of him. Like I say, it didn't end well. Like I say, they stunted their growth. So he needs this job as much as they need them. They want an experienced hire. He doesn't really bring drama. There's not too much baggage in that sense. He's not an outgoing character that says he's not. I've never seen him like that. Like saying he's got a wealth of experience. He'll be respected in circles in the SEC and around those areas recruiting. Like I say, so Paul, he'll help him do that. He might work well with the NIL guys and experienced guy. And as you say, when he left Florida, the UNLV team was nowhere near the force to be reckoned with that it is right now. So he's got them at the right time. A couple of years ago, he'd have never been interested in that job after he left Florida. But like I said, they went away, they looked at themselves, they worked on themselves, and now, yeah, a very winnable Mountain West. And if a couple of results go differently this way, they're probably in the playoffs this year, or they're very much close to being on the outside looking in, and those are the fine margins. So yeah, I think erring on the side of caution, this should be a good stable thing. Yeah. I don't think it'll be long term, but I think to steady the ship right now, I think it's probably what they both need.
Yeah, I mean, like, because UNLV is still not out the picture for joining the revamp pack. I know they've said they're staying in the Mountain West, but could become a power team again. Could be a good opportunity there. I like to say, rehab your stock here, get a Mountain West championship, go back to the SEC or a power conference again, get a job there. So, but I like the match. I think they've done really well in replacing the guys there. So we'll see how that one works out as well. And then the other one, you mentioned it a minute ago. I'm going to put it in here because we've discussed them all before. So. Former number one NFL draft pick Michael Vick is heading into coaching. He gets set in to take over the Norfolk State Spartans. They're based in Norfolk, Virginia. So Vick grew up about 30 miles down the road from there. He played obviously his college ball at Virginia Tech. So this is very much a homecoming for him, Virginia lad, coaching a Virginia team, but this is not a great Virginia team right now. This team is coming off the last 3 seasons, they've gone 2-9, 3-8, and 4-8. So this is very much a team that has been struggling. They are based in the MEAC, the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, where our good friend Coach Huggins, his Morgan State Bears reside in that same conference. So if we're able to get him back on again, I'd love to hear what he's thinking about being able to go up against Michael Vick as a coach, but that should be fun. But he has no previous coaching experience. And as we've gone on this ride, Ryan, of former NFL players coming into the cycle here, especially the HBCU guys, etc. Obviously, Dion. We've had the Goldilocks effect so far. We've had Dion, who was wildly successful, who is great and has done great things at the collegiate football level. He's hot. Then we had Ed Reed, who lasted about a week, then quit. That's deathly cold. So now we're trying Michael Vick out next. I don't really know anything about him as a coach. Obviously, his expertise as a quarterback and a dual threat guy is commended, and he's going to have gravitas. Like young players are going to go and want to play for someone like him, but will that translate into a successful coaching experience at a team that is struggling and needs some fresh impetus? Because yeah, no more than 4 wins in the last 3 seasons. What do you make of the hire? Do you reckon he'll stick it out? Do you reckon they'll give him the time? Could there be a chance that he is successful here with all the home ties and everything? You feel like that does play into it a bit, like, they will give him a bit more time as he's a Virginia lad. What are your thoughts on it?
I'm conflicted. So I'm looking at his Wikipedia. The only experience he's got coaching, he spent a couple of months as an intern with the Chiefs in 2017, and then in the defunct Alliance of America Football, he was the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Legends, but they only lasted a couple of months in 2018, and that is it. So I asked myself, Norfolk State, what do you think he's got to be qualified? Nothing. Michael Vick, of course, is going to take the opportunity because he lacks the qualifications, I think, to jump straight into a Division One, an NCAA program. Like I say, for as much as I don't like Deion Sanders, he had sons that played at a high level. He coached them. Like I say, involved, like I say, high schools, Jackson State, Colorado. It's not like he just jumped straight in at the deep end. Like I say, he coached Travis Hunt in his best year and then took him with him. Like I say, he's got that pull. I suppose and then I'll look on the other side. It's a team right now that's not going anywhere, doesn't really have high expectations. It's not going to put high expectations on him. Probably should give him a long time because, like I say, they're struggling and they really can't afford for this to miss. And I suppose it doesn't seem like it can end badly. It's not like a winning program and he derails it and everyone leaves. Like I say, it brings in better national attention to them, but frankly, they probably need that right now because, as you say, last couple of years, it's just all been bad, and they're probably struggling right now to maintain any half decent player. So bringing a bit of PR in, I don't blame it. If it goes okay and it's the start of something for Vic, I imagine he's put all the issues behind him in the past. He's probably not the same person he was all them years ago, and I'd like to think, like I say, he's come a long way and he's grown up, and this is the start of maybe a long career where he bounces around coaching teams. So I suppose we will see. Yeah, you
Yeah,
don't want to see him in the media for anything. He needs to keep his head down, like you say, and just get in. But yeah, if he does well here, it proves that he's got something about him, and that
yeah.
people will want to play for him. And then this will open bigger doors for him if possible.
Yeah, if this is a genuine attempt from him to use his star power and gravitas to uplift HBCU football, I applaud that. Like, he should want to do that. He's probably been through enough adversity in his own life doing that. And if he can bring the spotlight, because Dion did bring money, especially to Jackson State. So if he's able to do that and use his reputation for good, then fine. If it is a publicity stunt, then it's just going to go bad. Like the old Ed Reed never really seemed interested in going to Bethune-Cookman. Like he just wanted it all his own way. He was pampered. He couldn't be bothered. And this is also, I think it's going to be huge for other players coming in the future because
I think we're going to see
like
a very
Dion,
rapid rise in the next couple of
yeah,
years of freshly retired or guys in their 40s that may have got or not got experience
yeah.
that wanted to either at an old alma mater or a high school or somewhere local to them like this one where they're known in the area. They're
Mhm.
just giving them the job.
Yeah, and they need a good rep out of this because Dion's the only success at the minute. Ed Reed left a sour taste. Trent Dilfer's wrecked UAB with no coaching experience either at the FBS level.
Yeah.
So you need to dispel these assertions that former players can't come and do it.
Yeah. Currently,
So
former players have a terrible reputation in recent years of being bad
yeah,
coaches.
exactly. So I feel like this is very big here. And like I say, it's a program where he's not going to be expected to reach the Celebration Bowl in year one or something like that. He's got time to create his culture, build his team, and do it the right
Be
way. And
interesting to see how he
hopefully,
hires staff.
yeah.
I imagine, like I say, what staff are remaining? Is he gonna? He's gonna go to former players and friends and all, like I say, and try get them on board.
Or will he get experienced hands in to help him and to help run it? Like that would be the good sign of it. Like Dan does in Detroit. He hires guys like experienced guys at positions he's not very good at. And so then everything works properly. So we will keep a very close eye on it, but I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt here. And hopefully, as I say, if we talk to coach again at some point, hopefully we'll be able to get his thoughts on it as well, because he'll get to see him a couple of times a year now while they play each other. So we'll see. But yeah, Michael Vick is back in coaching there. Hey Mark, I hope you are all right. He says he's listening in on his lunch break. Appreciate you been here with us whilst you're on your lunch break there. And then other news. Have I kept this page up? I don't know if I have or not. So the college football awards were, I think it was done last week before we recorded,
Yeah.
but we didn't go through them. So maybe we'll just have a little look at them now. We're not going to go through our predictions for them because I don't think we got any of it. I mean, it's very hard to predict these between
I
you,
don't remember who I
anywho, but
picked.
I do. I've got them written down somewhere, but I was looking through them earlier and I thought, nope, nope, we're not going to do that. So we're just going to go through the ones we picked anyhow and then just quickly have a look.
Oh no, I
So
do. I've got them here.
yeah, we didn't do so
Uh,
well. We didn't get anybody like at all. No, nobody, not even one. So the only thing we got right, I think, was that Ashton Gianti was going to be rushing leader this year, most overall touchdowns this year. Yeah, like Ashton Gianti fronted our campaigns, so we are in a bit of bother. But just going through I'll go through the special teams first. We'll work our way up there. So the Ray Guy Award, which is for outstanding punter, was given to Eddie Kaplicki from USC. Who'd have thought USC and punters? There's a joke about the Chicago Bears to be made in there somewhere. And then the one that's got a lot of Florida State fans mad is the Lou Groza Award. That was won by Kenneth Almendares from Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, when many thought Ryan Fitzgerald, is it
yeah,
Fitzgerald, who is the FSU kicker, should have won it.
yeah.
He probably should have won that. I feel like he should have won that, but obviously Louisiana, I guess, went to a championship game, so he won that one there. Jim Thorpe Award for outstanding DB went to Jahdae Barron from Texas, right? I mean, it's been a hell of a season for the safety. He can play linebacker, he can play nickel. I've seen him mock drafted to the Lions a lot. He seems to be an early favorite with those, but worthy winner.
Well, I suppose, yeah. I can't think of anyone. I don't have an outlier that deserved it more. Like saying he did do a bit of everything all year. He was as good in coverage as he was in run stuffing and tackling in the box. So yeah, I can give him that one. As a well-rounded player, and he was part of one for a large part of the season, he was part of one of the best defenses in college. So that's fair enough, yeah.
Yeah, that Texas defense has been and we'll find out later, in takeaways, its DBs have been damn good there. The Dick Butkus Award in terms of the most outstanding linebacker went to Jalen Walker at Georgia.
A lot of
Now,
people
I
upset.
feel
Sean
like
Dolak
that's
should have won from Buffalo.
yes, he had like 170 tackles on the year. Did I saw Buffalo's two leading linebackers had like 320 tackles between them this year, which is I don't know what the hell they've been doing, but I think of him as more of a because they deploy him as a hybrid edge, don't they? I feel like those guys, like he's played on the D line a lot for them. I feel like that should disqualify. I mean, he's a great player who's had an absolutely fantastic season, but I think positionally wise alone, I'd be a little bit iffy with this one.
Yeah, this was a hard one. You can also look at guys like Corey Schlesinger at UCLA.
Yeah,
Love
yeah.
that guy at UCLA, big draft. He was an outstanding linebacker this year.
Yeah, the Iowa one,
Jay
Jay
Higgins.
Higgins, he's had a
Yeah.
really good year as well. I think this was a very fierce competition
Yeah.
for it. So,
If
like,
we're talking like say inside linebacker, maybe it's time to split these awards out, but they don't do that.
yeah, I mean, the Butkus has got a lot of pedigree. In 2022, it was our own Jack Campbell. Last year, it was Peyton Wilson, who is getting himself established in the NFL. This is a very good line of players there. But Jalen Walker won that. In terms of the two defensive players, so the Chuck Bednarik and the Bronco Nagurski, Travis Hunter. He won the Chuck Bednarik. Bronco Nagurski was won by Kyle Kennard, the edge from South
Oh,
Carolina,
I
who
would love him in Detroit.
has had, and he's one of many who has been like, he's had That South Carolina team, there's so many good draftable prospects on that team. They've just gone under the radar because of the shitty start they had. But I think Kenyard's a very worthy winner of one of those. He's had an absolutely amazing season against SEC level opposition as well.
Yeah, very consistent edge rusher. He's got size, he's got bend, he can play in the run game. Does everything the Lions need. And I've seen a lot of matches, like I say, he just fits. Like I say, he's one of the guys just like relentless motor. And as you say, the Gamecocks ultimately didn't live up to expectation, but there were some absolute stars on that
Yeah,
defense.
yeah. There
And Travis
were
Hunter, well,
not
he's the
getting both of
nation's
them. He
he's the
got
nation's sweetheart, isn't he?
it's yeah. We'll get onto his other one in a minute. I feel like he should have won it as a corner over a receiver.
Yes, I would
So
have given it to another receiver.
from that point of view, I can see him winning.
The
I
more I
can
look
see,
at him, the more I think corner in the
yeah,
NFL.
yeah. I'm all right with him winning the Chuck Bednarik, fine. But there have been some really good corners this year, but fine, you can do that. But Kyle Kennard certainly does deserve to win that one. Moving up, the Remington for outstanding center was won by Seth McLaughlin from Ohio State, although he got cropped towards the end of the year. Outstanding interior lineman, the Outland Trophy for the second year in a row has been won by a Texas Longhorn. Last year it was T'Vondre Sweat. This year, Kelvin Banks Jr. And now, just for the record, interior lineman in this instance means guy who lines up inside the tight end. So basically, everyone on the offensive
Everyone on both
line
sides of the
is,
trenches.
yeah, everyone is applicable for this. Now, Kelvin Banks has had a very good year, and you saw how they suffered without him in the SEC title game. This is another one. I'm not entirely sold on him being
I
the
think
guy
this
who
is an
should win
award that
it.
they should scrap. And they
Or
just say you're the best nose tackle in between. You're the best
yeah,
defensive tackle in between the nines,
yeah.
or you're the best offensive lineman.
I think you should split it. I think you should have an
Yeah,
offensive lineman and a defensive
I
lineman.
do.
Because I think there are a lot of people who could lay credit to that
Different
this year, and it
jobs.
feels like, yeah,
How can you compare like say a three tech defensive lineman to a right guard?
yeah. Because this is all over the place. So 2 years ago, it was won by Oluwatumi, the Michigan center. T'Vondre Sweat's a D tackle. Kelvin Banks is a left tackle. It's just all over the place. But he's had a great year, and again, one I wouldn't mind seeing in Detroit either.
Yeah,
But he's probably
make a
gone by
good
the
case for a
time.
tackle or a guard. Yeah,
Yeah, he's probably gone by the time we pick him there. Now, the real one that's annoyed people, and especially people in our Discord, the John Mackey Award for Most Outstanding Tight End went to Tyler Warren from Penn State. And, there was a certain guy from Bowling Green who would heavily disagree with that, Harold Fannin Jr., who's had an absolutely wonderful season. Finished second in the nation in receiving yards this year as a tight end, which is just absolutely insane. This feels like it's been done on name because while Warren is good, when Warren had his first breakout game this year, I remember looking at the scouting reports on him, and all of them said he was mid as anything. Nobody said the athleticism's not there, the receiving ability's not there. Everyone was down on him. Then he seems to have become a sweetheart over half a season, but I don't know. I feel like Fanning should have won this. I feel like the group of five guys been done dirty.
yeah. Tyler Warren started the year slowly, but had that run where he had like 150, 200, 100. Yeah, he had like a couple of 200 overall yard games, and then suddenly, yeah, he was the nation's sweetheart. And yeah, ultimately, there's another player that you can consider this to that we won't talk about, but yeah, the level of competition has also been used against Harold Fanning Jr. They do love to use that. Oh, you play against Power Fog, you play against guys in the MAC every week, and he plays against guys in the Big Ten. So he gets the award.
So yeah, and that was the award that had been previously been double won by Brock Bowers. So, but I kind of just goes to show you what the tight end class is at this year. I know some draft analysts are saying it's low key very good. I ain't on that train just yet, but I don't think he deserved to win that. And speaking of not deserving to win things, the Biletnikoff for most outstanding receiver went to Travis Hunter. Again, he won the wide receiver vote and the corner vote, which just seems very disingenuous at this point. And I
And yeah,
know,
there was a wide receiver that won the Triple Crown.
Yes. Most yards, most receptions, most touchdowns. Another group of five player, Mr. Nash, down at
Yeah. Jose,
San
San
Jose
Jose
State,
State, yeah.
sorry. But I know Mike Renner got in trouble for this on Twitter because he started putting his stats up and then everyone completely rinsed him over it because all the arguments he'd used got flipped on Travis Hunter that he, basically stat padded against poor teams, which he said Nash did because he only plays a couple of Power Four opponents a year. But I don't know. This doesn't sit with me either. Like you've even outside of this conversation, you've got guys like Tetiora McMillan,
Yeah.
who's just been an absolute
He had
menace
bigger
this
stats, and he
year.
was on a terrible team.
Yeah. So this just feels like, again, like you said, people are buying into the hype of Hunter and they're all trying to, for phrases of a crude phrase, they're trying to ride him, for want of a better word.
Yeah. I mean, if I was gonna rank wide receivers to the draft, I wouldn't put Hunter before McMillan. I can see a large world where Torrey McMillan is drafted before Travis Hunter.
Hmm.
And that would be totally fine if a team wants an outside receiver, because that's not what Travis Hunter is. And he won't be at the next level. Not if he's splitting time.
Yeah, yeah. 9 touchdowns between FCS opposition and Oklahoma State, who were basically FCS opposition this year. Worst team in the Big 12, and it wasn't really even particularly close. So, yeah, be careful, PFF guys, when you're doing your stats. Be careful they cannot be flipped on you. But I feel like Nash got done out of that. But well done to Travis. He loaded up this year. The Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award for Most Outstanding Senior Quarterback went to Shador Sanders. The Davy O'Brien Award for the National Quarterback Best one was Cam Ward. Do you agree with that? Cam Ward been the best quarterback, winner worthy of the Davy O'Brien, which was previously taken by Jaden Daniels and Max Duggan?
No, I'd have probably given it to Dillon Gabriel.
Hmm.
Because for all the things that Cam Ward did well, there were also mistakes. And there were a lot of them. And ultimately, like I say, one of the biggest ones cost him their unbeaten strip when he had the fumble. Like I say, tries too hard. Whereas Dylan Gabriel makes very few mistakes, makes a lot less flashy plays. But for me, he's just everything I look for in a model quarterback. Just goes about his
Yeah,
business. You don't hear a lot of him. That's because he's very rare. But yeah, I thought I'd have given it to Dylan Gabriel. And then
yeah.
I think the senior quarterback award, I think that's rubbish.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. But anyhow, he should have had a good year, so I'm not really going to complain about that one too much. The Dope Walker, unsurprisingly, for best running back, went to Ashton Giante, which I think very few would. It
I don't think anyone,
probably
I
there's
don't think
prob
anyone could argue with that.
I think there's only probably a Marion Hampton who's got a semi-legitimate claim to be up there, but he's like 1,000 yards ahead of the next guy. It's so difficult, and plus, we are small school guys, so anytime a small school guy wins it, it's a victory. So yeah, you kind of got to go with that there. The one that I really loved, the Home Depot Award. It's changed, but that is for Coach of the Year. And Coach of the Year went to Kurt Signetti from Indiana, and I could not be happier. They didn't go with a big program and a guy just meeting expectations at a big program. This is a team that's not even, it's not won a bowl game since 1991. I was 1 and a bit years old the last time they won a bowl game, and he's just completely flipped their season into an 11-2 success, 11-1 success. Sorry, I I know you might take reservations with your own coach, which is fine, but I think in the grand scheme of things, this is a turnaround on a monumental scale, similar to what your guy has done, and you could at least begrudgingly give him this one, or do you disagree?
No, I'm fine with Kurt winning it. Like Indiana, ASU, both had no expectations. No one had any expectations of either of them. Like I say, no one thought that with 2 weeks to go that Indiana had a chance at winning the Big Ten. And I don't know if I just looked at, like, say, the campus, the attractiveness as the team, maybe the budget. I reckon ASU probably trumps Indiana in some of them categories as being as a more attractive team. Also, where it is being a party school, a lot of kids are probably looking like, oh, I'd love to go to Arizona State. Do you want to go to Indiana? Probably not.
No.
And like I say, it's probably a bit harder to get guys to go to that school, which is fair enough. And then yeah, and he also brought guys in from like say a power four, and they didn't look out of place.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, but I guess Kenny won a championship. I mean, it's very tough. I feel like, yeah, you could have picked either of these guys and it'd have been the right result. But the best thing is they've not put someone who completely undeserves it in there, who's just met expectations. There are several programs that have been completely revamped this year, so well done to Kurt for that. The Walter Camp Award for Player of the Year went to Travis Hunter. The Maxwell Award for Most Outstanding Player went to Ashton Gionte. Again, don't think I could really argue with that, could you? He's been
I just don't
transcendent this year.
understand what the award means.
Yeah, I guess
What is the difference
just
between the most outstanding award and the Heisman?
Heisman. Yeah, it kind of feels. I guess is it a secondary award so they can give it to someone they don't feel as bad for not giving the Heisman to? Just
Yeah,
like,
if that was
oh,
announced
you're the
first and
small
I
school
saw it, I'd
guy.
have known straight away he's not winning the Heisman.
Yeah, it feels like a backup for it, doesn't it? So, but
It
Ashton
seems very
wins that.
redundant. Yeah,
It does. In terms of the Heisman itself, this is the big one, the final one. Travis Hunter wins the Heisman under pressure from a whole host of figures, but
I
Dylan
did see it was the
Gabriel.
closest though in about 5 years by how many votes. He only won by 200 points.
Yeah, Dylan Gabriel finished fourth. Cam Ward finished third. Ashton Gionte finished second, and Travis Hunter won the entire thing. Your own Scatman Cam Scatterboot came in at five.
Yep. He got
Like
five
what
first
a
place votes. I got three first place votes.
as well. So the Sun Devils in there, but for Heisman, as much as we kind of no, not ragged on him, but not really sang his praises on this, he has played two sides of the ball all season to a very good level, and you do feel without him, that Colorado team would be a hell of a lot poorer of a player. And they did also exceed a lot of expectations this year, just missing out on the Big 12 championship game. Would you have given it to any of the others, or are you at least contented with Hunter winning it?
I could make an equal case for Ashton to win it. Like I say,
Mm.
when you look at the records he broke, the people who's on pace with some of the best seasons in football history, the names, like I say, and I'm not the whole, oh, he carries the ball thousands of times, of course he's going to be good. Loads of running backs do, and a lot of them are shit. I mean,
Mm.
like, carry and workload don't mean anything. If you take him out of that Boise State team, they fall apart because Maddox Madsen was better than average. Like, so yeah, if you take out Travis, that's a poor Colorado team. No disrespect to Horn and Will Shepherd and guys like that, but no, he was the guy.
Yeah.
And next year, the guys are gone. Let's see what the
Mhm.
Buffaloes are like without their enigma.
Oh, they've got a very interesting QB prospect, though, haven't they? But well, obviously, we'll
Yeah.
talk about that in a bit. I
I say,
love
yeah,
the hire
but that's
there
what if GMs out there are brave enough and they think at the pro level they can manage a snap count where he goes both ways all year and he actually does it, then yes, he was fully deserving because no one does it. Not about getting
no.
hurt.
No, I mean, I guess at worst, like the Lions, that if you've got an injury crisis on your defense, you can just play him as a corner. If you've got
Yeah,
an injury crisis on offense, you can just play him as a receiver. I guess there is, like you say, who's brave enough?
yeah.
Who's
It doesn't
brave
feel
enough to
like he'll be
go?
a star. It just feels like a guy that can make an impact anywhere.
Because hits are harder in the NFL. And
Yeah,
if you're getting, three times you've got a 230-pound running back bulldozing into you and knocking you down, and then you're going onto the offensive side of the ball and you've got a 240-pound safety absolutely trucking you when you're catching a ball midair, and then you're going to go back out and face the running back again. It takes its toll.
yeah.
We've
I
seen
mean,
a lot of players breaking down this year
a lot of teams, a lot of players make the judgment, oh, you can't use the first round receiver as a punt returner because he's going to get hurt. Yeah. But with this guy, you have to because that's why I'm drafting him. I have to be able to play him in the slot at corner. He may have to play safety to pick up an injury. He might have to return punts or kicks. And not because I risk hurting him and because, like I say, he's too price higher value. That's the only reason I took him there because he's told me he can do it and he wants to do it.
Yeah, yeah. The combine's going to be very
I'm going to be
interesting.
absolutely fascinated. All the teams that draft Travis, I think, going to use him wrong because I think they're all going to be stinky teams.
Mm.
Jacksonville will absolutely, they'll break him. They'll ruin the kid. Like Laviska Shenault, who also did that as a running back and a receiver and a returner, and it didn't work for him.
No, no, it's
The
going to
right
be
team has got to
interesting.
take Travis, and all the teams he wants to play on will not get anywhere near him.
I think the combine will show a lot, whether he does both sets of drills
Yeah,
and
he's going
does
to
it that
have to, like you
way.
said, the measurables, the weight, the
Yeah,
drills.
and if
Yeah.
and if
Is
he's
he
gonna,
leaning towards one more side of the ball, or will some of the coaches just look at him and go, "If I draft you, you're a corner. We
mm,
ain't putting you on offense whether you want it or not."
no, and he's gonna have to do it at his pro day if he goes to the All-Star games, where I think they're going all to the Shrine Bowl, aren't they? So like he's gonna have a lot of work to do in the off season, and he's I've no doubt he can manage the workload. Absolutely
I
not,
also
but
don't even know how NFL contracts work with players that play at Matt snaps either side.
yeah, his
Imagine
contracts.
how would you franchise tag him? How would you tag him?
Um,
You couldn't if he's played so many characters in each, you couldn't give him a certain designation.
well, what did they tag? Didn't McCaffrey get tagged once, and they had this issue? Did the
Yeah.
Panthers tag him? And they tagged him as I think he end up getting receiver numbers on the tag or something like that because he can do both. I don't know. But how do you pay him as a contract? Like you're paying him as a top tier wide receiver who can earn 30 million a year, but
Yeah, I want I want Payne as a receiver.
top tier corners can also, pull in 25, 30. So do you have to pay him 40 a year to account for both sides of the ball he plays? Who knows? It's going to be intriguing. But yeah, Travis Hunter wins your Heisman. Yeah, that's fine. I can live with it, but and then I think he won too many awards at this one. I think they're riding him a little too hard, but we will see. Right. Let's get that one out the way there. And we will move on to in fact, we'll quickly talk about it. We mentioned we will talk about the FCS playoffs as we go in through. Obviously, the first week was fairly intriguing, few upsets there. The second week, 8 games, all 8 higher seeded home favorites won, and there were only two one-score games. But not the quarterfinals, they are the quarterfinals. Are we on to the semi-finals now? We are the quarterfinals. 4 games, nothing changed, Ryan.
Nope. The seeds all handle business.
The
Like I say,
higher ones.
yeah. Like I say, realistically, the oh well, I watched UC Davis v South Dakota, but it was absolutely chaotic. There was like 9 turnovers. The UC Davis quarterback threw 4 interceptions. They only lost by 2 scores, 35-21, but they beat themselves. Like I say, there were fumbles, there was really bad interceptions. The South Dakota defense just absolutely smothered the life out of the Aggies. And like I say, in the end, it was just yeah. Like I say, South Dakota also very sloppy, gave the ball away, very sloppy game. It was like it could have gone either way, but in the end, just lack of discipline and unable to keep the ball, wrong side of the turnover margin, and in the end, wasn't a good Coyotes performance. I imagine they were probably pretty happy to get out of that one and make it there. Like I said, it wasn't great by their standards. It was pretty sloppy on offense, and but defense did bail them out. Jackrabbits, I thought Cardinals could hang in. Yeah, weren't even close, blown away by 40. Mercer, credit to the Mercer defense because for a long time in that game, they kept it like a 2 score margin. And in the end, they lost by 24. But it felt like for a good half, good 3 quarters, it was on like 10, 15, like minus 20. Like you said, it was their offense. Nothing could get going whatsoever. Jack Rabbit, like I say, the bias on defense just smothered them. And then, yeah, the best team in the nation, Tommy Malott, like I say, one of the star receivers, the Bobcats, yeah, they routed the Vandals. They could barely lay a glove on them. So, yeah, we're going to see another brawl. We've got South Dakota State Jack and North Dakota State. We've got another rivalry game, and then yeah, Montana State, South Dakota. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4.
So they got the seedings right. Let's give the committee credit. They got the
Yep.
seedings right. But you mentioned these were blowouts. Montana State won 52 to 19. South Dakota State won 55 to 14. North Dakota State won 31-7, and South Dakota won 35 to 21. As I said, set up semifinals. So you got number one Montana State at home to number four South Dakota, and number two North Dakota State, sorry, at home to number three South Dakota State. And let's just have a quick look because your bracket is three-quarters of the way correct here. Your bracket for the semifinals was the Dakotas playing one another, and you had Montana State playing UC Davis, which for a bad quarterback performance could actually have happened. And you had Montana State and South Dakota State winning in the semifinals. Have you changed your mind? Or anything that's made you see that neither the Jackrabbits or the Bobcats could make it, or are you sticking with
No,
what you
I'm going to
said?
flip. I'm going to take the Bison after watching the Jackrabbits. Cam Miller's been very good. Their defense, great. But interesting, like I say, the North Dakota, South Dakota states got Cam, you got Cam, and you've got Mark Gronowski. You've got two draft quarterbacks, and you've got Trey Lance's little brother, if he declares that's like a junior star receiver for the Bison. So there's a lot of draft talent on that show in that game. But I think the Bison will edge that. South Dakota, I love the Coyotes, but they're not going to hold the candle at the Bobcats. Tommy Malott and the Bobcats, they're going to bulldoze them.
All right, there we go.
So I think we'll
So
have a 1v2.
a 1v2 seed in the final. We will see, as I mentioned, a lot of draft talent potentially in that Dakota's game. North Dakota State is sending another lineman to the draft this year. They're traditionally pretty good. They are getting a foothold in the game. So if you get a chance to see them, then get a chance. But that is, yeah, the FCS playoffs. We're at the semi-final stage, and then the final is in early January, I believe. They have a
Yep,
couple of weeks
Frisco,
off over
Texas,
Christmas.
January 4th, I think, is a
Yeah,
Saturday.
usually the week before the FBS playoff final, but playoffs this year, all January, baby. So there we go. So that is everything from the
Yeah. Speaking of
FCS.
FCS playoffs, Ivy League next year
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
first time. I don't know if they've ever been in it before, but they've announced they've joined it now. But yeah, like say the likes of Columbia, Princeton, and that, like say, will be sending a representative to the playoffs.
They did. They will be indeed. So we look forward to that. And you think there's some good players come out of the
Yeah,
Ivy Leagues recently.
Princeton are really good at football.
Yeah,
Harvard, Yale.
Andre
They've got yeah.
Yoshavas he's playing well for the Bengals. You've got Kieran Amigaji. He was playing left tackle for the Bears the other day in relief. He's getting in that team. And he's a first year guy out of Yale as well. So the Ivy Leagues are producing talent for the
Be
NFL and
interesting to
they're
see how the academic schools match up to the football schools.
yeah, see if they see how they can get going in there. So we will see. But the Ivy League is going to be involved in it now. They won't get an automatic bid as far as I'm aware, but if one of them is high seeded enough, wins enough games, then they'll
They
have the
should do. They always have
opportunity.
one really good team that can win 9 or 10 games.
Yeah, yeah, you would think so. So yeah, Ivy League is going to be involved. But yeah, we've got Final Four in there this weekend. Keep an eye on that. And then of course, Brent, sorry to do this for you, buddy. So just before I do, he goes, I thought the start of the Army Navy game, they were saying that the Army OL won the best OL award. They sure didn't play like it. Actually, they did. One of the many awards that I didn't mention on there because there's loads of others and it would have taken us forever. But they did. I mean, the O-line coach has got a job in the MAC now. So, he's coaching Central Michigan. So here we go. And that's actually a perfect segue there, Brent, because we're going to discuss it now. The Army-Navy game on full show. And I must say, the Navy uniforms looked magnificent, more so than in their promos. Army's ones I thought were meh. Don't know about you, Ryan. I thought the Navy uniforms were better than they've given in recent years. It's the best one they've had since the space one in about 2020, 2021. But this is the thing with service football. Records go out the window, form goes out the window. Army fresh off an American championship in their first ever season. And I believe it is the first ever conference championship for a service team before as well. That's how big an achievement this was for them. Rolling into this game at 11-1 against the 8-3 Navy midshipmen. And I watched this. and I
Oh, yeah.
was incredibly shocked, Ryan. Navy 31, Army 13. We get the reverse numbers in there, and Army, their rushing offense, nothing going. Kanye Udo, their main guy, 3.8 yards per carry for his 53. Bryson Daly, not only did he not get a rushing touchdown at all, but he was rushing for 2.7 yards per carry. I think he finished the season fifth in rushing yards in the entire nation. And that's against all the other regular running backs there. He ended up having to resort to throw the ball. Navy
Not
picked him
well.
off three times. His like 16 pass attempts to 33 run attempts, which may not seem like much, but for an army, for a service disparity to be 1 to 2 on passes to runs, that's a high volume. Usually it's about 1 to 7, 1 to 8.
Let's have a look. He passed for 17 attempts against UTSA. It's his second highest. No other game this season over above 15 pass
Yeah.
attempts. He never throws the ball.
No, and it kind of shows three interceptions on the day. He did have a passing touchdown as well, but for Navy, Blake Horvath, the absolute star here, he did the reverse. 25 carries for 204 yards at 8.2 yards per carry and two rushing touchdowns. 4 of 9 throwing, 107 yards, two touchdowns for him. And this was just an absolute field day. The Navy secondary was good, scooping everything up when they want to. But that Navy defensive line, right? I mean, no one has, even Notre Dame did not do as good a job holding this run game in check this year. And that's with a whole bunch of future NFL players on that roster. Navy just took the bull by the horns at the start of this game, kept getting Army off the field quick, put their own runs together, put it beyond their reach. I thought it was a really good game. And Navy played their hearts out and very worthy winners.
Yeah, like I say, Navy, they were just relentless. Like I say, their dominance there, just their overall ground attack. It wasn't just one guy, it wasn't just three guys, it was five, six guys. Like I say, people taking the pressure off Eli Heidenreich, that's been a menace in backfield all year. He took a bit of a back seat in this game, despite having he had a big receiving catch, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like you say, yeah, he didn't get his usual workload, but it was very much a rushing committee, and yeah, good. Their defense was absolutely brutal. Yeah, and the turnovers as well. Like I say, the interceptions really stung. Once they kind of nullified the Black Knights as being a serious rushing threat, and they asked Bryson to just try air it out a little bit. Most of them they were fairly inaccurate over or underthrown. So yeah, they had to roll the dice a little bit, and in the end, yeah, they lost. So, but yeah, Navy, I was very surprised. It was very dominant from them.
Yeah, and say just utter domination on the trenches, both sides of the ball, and Blake Horvath, he looked like Bryson Daly has done all this year. He did absolutely everything for his team. I've never seen Bryson Daly so bottled up before. I mean, this is not about like for Army. I know it'll sting losing to Navy, but as much as they say it doesn't matter as much, you've got to figure that an American championship is gonna that's going to more than make up for the sting of a loss to Navy this year. They've got a conference championship under their name, a one-loss regular season, in potential talks for the playoffs at one point. It'll sting, but they won't mind.
Oh no, they've lost to Navy loads of times, haven't they? Like it's not like I mean they've both beaten each other a lot of times over the years. It's not like it's a historic loss. It's a painful loss, and it's a game that they would have expected to win. But the game that really mattered the most is the one they've won, going into next year as an American defending champion, and having a target on your back, and being the most prominent service team. Yeah, Navy will be delighted to win, but they can't really hold a candle to Army right now because, like I said, where's your championship? Yeah,
Exactly.
where's your ring? You probably ain't got a commemorative ring.
No, I think it's the first time a service team's ever won a championship before, as in the conference championship, I believe. I think that's true. You're probably going to have to go back to pre-war if you do.
Yeah.
So I could just
Big
imagine
loss
Brett's
as well though.
reaction when,
Kanye Udo hit the portal.
oh, he did, didn't he?
Yeah.
Has
Do
he,
you
has
know
he
where he's
got
visiting?
where?
I'll give you a clue. They've had a string of very good transfer running backs.
He's not visiting Sun Devils, is he?
He is, yeah, he's got a scheduled visit with the Sun Devils.
Oh wow! Oh,
Coming
go
off a
on,
thousand
yeah.
yard rushing year. Dominant, like I
Oh,
said, very disciplined runner. Yeah,
and
he's got,
and and he'll be a willing blocker as well, and do all that dirty stuff like
yeah,
Scatman
him and
does.
Raleek Brown, like I say, they could be a pair. I could see him
Oh,
picking the Sun Devils.
let's manifest that right now. Sorry, Brent, like you're losing your star running back, but you know he's going to be in good hands at Arizona State. So, oh wow, I'd love to see that come to fruition. So hopefully it does. But yeah, this was fun. This was one of the more fun iterations of the game we've seen in a while because a lot of them have been boring recently. But well done, Navy, on beating Army. Commiserations, Brent. Hopefully next year. But you won an American championship this year, so. That's not a bad consolation prize to not beat Army there. And plus you beat Air Force as well, so you can at least, give it to the airmen there. Brent goes, the Navy helmets were fire. Yeah, I thought the Navy. What do you reckon of the unis, Ryan? I don't really spoke too much. I thought the Navy ones were fire. I
I
thought the
liked
Army
the Navy
ones were
ones.
meh. I thought they were much better than the Army ones.
Yeah, I liked the Navy ones.
Yeah, I would love to get my hands on some of this Navy gear, but you've got to get it from over in America. So, if anyone's come by one of those helmets or something, I will buy it off you. Just saying. Right, let us move it on because we've still got a lot to go through. So we're going to take a look now at the playoffs before we talk about the draft. So, as we mentioned, the FBS playoffs start this week. The new 12-team format. So we have a first round, a second round, then we have the semi-finals, then we have the final. So a month's worth of action and all great because well, three of the games are on my birthday on Saturday. So I get to sit around at home eating cake, watching college football. I will be happy as Larry all day long. And plus, we've got some good we've got NFL on as well. So I'm just going to have multi-screen on in the house, be watching ball all day. So the four games that are happening when I can get down on here. So we've got number 9 Tennessee at number 8 Ohio State, number 12 Clemson at number 5 Texas, number 11 SMU at number 6 Penn State, and number 10 Indiana at number 7 Notre Dame. And what I've done for this, because when we use previews, we just usually make picks, but because it's just the four games, if you ever watch our conference previews before the season begins, I list all the stats out, the seasons, the teams, how they did the year before. Well, I've put the stats side by side of all the teams, put the matchups together to see maybe where some of these games will be won and lost, and then we'll make our official prediction. I know we made some predictions last week, but maybe these stats I've got together will change minds. I don't know, but we're going to talk about the games a little bit, right? So. First up, we've got number 9 Tennessee at number 8 Ohio State. And for Michigan fans, this will make you laugh, but apparently there are that many Volunteers fans who've got tickets for this that they're going to be able to checker the shoe. I.e., if you know at Tennessee home games, they checker it with people in orange shirts, people in white shirts, the Vols colours. They've got enough fans there to checker the horseshoe. So that's going to be absolutely hilarious if Tennessee's able to overtake Ohio State's own stadium. Just don't plant flags because it's now illegal. And they'll probably, you know what? It wouldn't surprise me after this if they did, if they outlawed having visiting fans there. Just, not to make Ohio State feel so bad. That's probably what they'll do. It's fun. But anywho, number 9 Tennessee, number 8 Ohio State. One of the interesting facts I learned about this, and I mentioned it earlier in the show, is how long ago it was that these teams all played one another, which seems to be maybe one of the benefits of having these 12-team, 14-team potentially playoffs, that we're going to see a lot of big teams play each other who have not before. This is only the third ever meeting between Tennessee and Ohio State, and it's the first meeting since they met in the Citrus Bowl in 1996. So this is a game nearly 30 years in the making. Ohio State finished fourth in the Big Ten with a 7-2 record and a 10-2 record overall. Tennessee finished third in the SEC with a 6-2 conference record and a 10-2 overall record. And the reward for winning this is a trip to Eugene to play against the number 1 ranked Oregon Ducks. So how do these two teams match up against one another? So we're gonna dive into these a little bit, right? So going through all the bits, total offense, scoring offense, rushing offense, all that sort of stuff. So total offense for these teams, Tennessee, eighth in the nation with 463 yards of offense per game. Ohio State, 36th nationally with 423 yards per game. In terms of total defense, Tennessee, fourth nationally with 278.2 yards per game given up. Ohio State, though, the number one ranked defense in the nation when it comes to total defense. They give up on average just 240 yards per game. When it comes to the scoring aspects, Tennessee, their scoring offense is eighth nationally, 37.2 points per game. Ohio State, it's 17th, 35.5 points per game on average. So that's 1.7 less than Tennessee. And when it comes to the scoring defense, they're both top five. Tennessee are fourth. They only give up 13.92 points per game on average. And Ohio State have the top scoring defense in the nation, just 10.92 points per game. So just stopping it there to go over these particular ones, what they tell us, right? Tennessee, slightly better when it comes to the total offense, slightly better when it comes to the scoring offense. But then you flip it over. Ohio State slightly better on total defense, slightly better on scoring defense, but they're both top five outfits in the country when it comes to defense. And Tennessee have a little bit of an edge on a scoring on the offensive side of the ball,
Yep, because Tennessee can run the ball.
surprisingly.
Oddly
Yeah.
enough, Dillon Sampson is better than Quinton Judkins and Travion Henderson combined. And I didn't expect to say that at the start of the year. Like I
No.
say, whether I don't know what's gone wrong at the Buckeyes rushing game. It's not like a talent, it's not personnel. It certainly is not the O-line because it's one of the best in the country. Is it the play calling? Is it the offensive coordinator? I don't know. But a lot of moving parts meant that rush offense of this year has been one of the most disappointing units for me in the whole country.
Yeah, absolutely. So breaking down the offensive and the defensive production. So Tennessee, their rushing offense is ninth nationally, 232 yards per game on the ground on average, with 32 rushing touchdowns. Their passing offense, however, it's 62nd. Not used to this from Tennessee. They've gone from being a spread offense to a team who love to run the ball, but 230 yards per game through the air on average, 21 touchdowns. And then for Ohio State, as Ryan mentioned, they're 59th when it comes to rushing offense, just 170 yards per game and 24 touchdowns. Their passing offense is 38th. They're 254 yards per game, 29 touchdowns. So, you look at the offensive side of the ball, right? Tennessee love to rush it more. Under Dillon Sampson, they've done really good things. Iamaleavu's been good, not great, but it is his first year as a starter. And then Ohio State's side of the ball, the offense, they ain't lighting it up in either category really at the moment. It's clearly they're building it off the back of this defense.
Yeah, their offense all year against the bigger, better teams, it's just done enough. Like I say, it's given them a lead or something attainable that their defense, which has been elite, is something it can defend against. And you question at some point it's not going to be enough.
Hmm.
Is it now? Is it in a couple of weeks? Like I say, yeah, it feels like one has got a lot more firepower than the other right now.
It does. When you're talking defense, so rushing defense, Tennessee are eighth nationally. They give up just 100 yards per game on the ground and just nine touchdowns. Ohio State right in front of them, seventh, 97 yards per game and nine touchdowns. So they're basically identical there. When it comes to the passing defense, Tennessee ranks 17th. They give up 180 yards per game, but just nine touchdowns through the air. But then Ohio State, man, wow, they're second nationally. They give up just 144 yards per game through the air, and they've given up just four passing touchdowns this season. So you look at the matchups here. Right, you've got the eighth best rushing defense in the nation with Tennessee coming up against the 60th best rushing attack in the nation with Ohio State. On the flip side, you've got the 62nd best passing offense coming up against the second best passing defense nationally, but they don't need to pass the ball as much because they can run the ball. And Ohio State's run defense, it's as good as theirs, but I don't know. Do you see any mismatches in there that might influence you one way or the other? For me, that run defense against that run offense strikes out.
I do look at the Buckeyes. Yeah, I think if they can slow down Dillon Sampson and make Nico have to throw the ball, is that where they kind of unravel a little bit? Because, like I say, 4 touchdowns, like I say, their red zone, Ohio State is elite. I've seen Denzel Burke also mocked the Lions in a draft because their corners and man coverage and that, they're so good. And their safeties are elite. In red zone, like I say, they will let guys move up and down the field, but in a red zone, it's turnover on downs or it's a field goal. And that can be a backbreaker for some teams. That is where the Buckeyes' bread and butter is.
Yeah, so it does feel like if they can force Tennessee to pass it, then that's their advantage. If Tennessee can just completely shut the run down, as they might be able to, that means Will Howard's going to be out there throwing picks. Kind of feels like it there. In terms of sacks and tackles for loss, so Tennessee in sacks, they're 39th nationally with 29, but in tackles for loss, they're 7th with 93. Put that up against Ohio State, they're 16th in sacks, 35, which is 6 more than Tennessee, but they're 33rd when it comes to tackle for loss with 78, which is 15 less than what Tennessee are able to do. In terms of sacks allowed, Tennessee is 73rd with 26 given up. Ohio State is 16th with just 13 given up. Tackles for loss, Tennessee are 39th with 56 given up. Ohio State are 4th with 42 given up. So, you look at this, two mean defensive lines. Ohio State get the flashy sacks, Tennessee get a ton against the run, negative plays, putting people behind the sticks. When it comes to offensive lines, Tennessee's is not quite as good as Ohio State when it comes to pass protection. So you look at that and maybe another area to look at there.
Yeah. If you're going to talk about trench warfare, Buckeyes have the better, yeah. Sacks, more consistently, better tackles for loss. Like I said, this is a game where if Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau are going to establish themselves as middle first round draft picks, this is the game they got to do it in. You got to show up when the lights come brightest. Those two are going to be crucial to making a playoff run. Is getting to the quarterback. Like so you got a freshman quarterback. Nothing unsettles him more. Or nothing will unsettle him more. Like I said, they needed a couple of sacks in the first half.
Exactly. And then the final metric to go through this is turnovers, because obviously turnovers critical in deciding games. So in terms of turnovers gained, Tennessee are 34th with 20. Ohio State are 59th with 17. In terms of turnovers lost, Tennessee are 42nd with 15 giveaways. Ohio State are 31st with 13 giveaways. Now the margin, Tennessee are 37th. They have on average plus 0.42 turnovers a game. So they get more turnovers than they give away turnovers by 0.42 a game. Ohio State are 44th. They have 0.33 turnovers plus per game. So, basically in layman's numbers, right? Tennessee have got 20 takeaways and 15 giveaways. Ohio State 17 takeaways, 13 giveaways. Neither of them have a significant advantage here. They're almost turning it over as much as they get it. It's very slight. There's no team that seems intermittently better at it than the other. Tennessee just have higher numbers for both.
Yeah. Like I say, these are two teams. Don't give it away a lot. Don't take it away a lot compared to some teams we'll talk about. They're pretty neutral in that sense. Like I say, two very well matched sides on paper.
Yeah, they very much are indeed. In terms of the quarterbacks, Will Howard, 2,860 yards, 27 touchdowns, just 8 interceptions for him this year. Nico Iamaleava, the sophomore, first year as a starter, 2,512 yards, 19 touchdowns, and just five interceptions on the year in what is his first starting season. So you come to the quarterbacks, both are efficient. Both don't give the ball away a lot. Both are not necessarily the flashiest guys in the room, but for the most part, they manage game well. So again, you look at this. Yarmolievio's the younger one. Will Howard's been in college football for ages. Yarmolievio's probably going to hit the higher ceiling of the two of them. But where they're at now, this feels like a very even matchup between the quarterbacks. You can't feel like you can tell much between them.
No, like I say, one fresh out of high school, the other one has bounced around, been in some prominent offenses, learned some other schemes, and is a little bit more mature, well-rounded.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then, defensively, just some of the players are like, I expect Brad Holmes to be at this game
Yeah,
fully because I know mocks are nothing to go by, but generally feels like we're going to go trench. We'll talk about the Lions draft things later, but
yeah.
there are at
I've
least
already seen three Buckeyes mocked to the Lions.
and one vol. So there are four players in this game who have potentially been mocked to us now. Brad doesn't go with public opinion, etc. I would be shocked if he's not at this game, because there are a couple more. There's a lot of trench players here
That
who
O
he's going
line.
to be at.
We need O line.
Exactly. So, like, playmakers here, you've got James Pierce Jr., the Tennessee sophomore, 7 sacks, 11 tackles for loss this year, was potentially a first round pick at the beginning of this year. He's had a good year, not great. Then on the other side of the ball, you got JT Tuamalau. He's got 6 sacks, 11 tackles for loss this year. You've got great secondary guys, Denzel Burke on Ohio State's side. Jermod McCoy, the Tennessee corner, has 4 interceptions on the year. And then you've got guys like Donovan Jackson, the left guard, who's now playing left tackle. You've got oh Christ, who's the other one? Jack Sawyer. He feels like a it feels like he's a children's character. Like, trenches feel like they're going to be big in this. There's NFL caliber talent on both sides, and this is a perfect draft booster for all these guys. You have a good performance, even in just this game against a lot of other guys who are going to be playing Sundays with you. This feels like some of the guys who could benefit most out of this entire playoff weekend, and a special performance from Pierce or Tuimoloau, that could be potentially what wins this game.
Yeah, it feels like this game. It feels like one player can take it by the scruff of the neck. It's just if Pierce can get 2 sacks, if Sawyer can go out there and get a lot of tackles for a loss, get a sack, or like I say, if Donovan Jackson, if he can shut down Pierce, allow no hurries, no sacks or anything, yeah, maybe he's the future guard for the Detroit Lions at the end of the first round next year. You never know, that kind of performance that can just solidify a second round pick to a first round pick is worth a couple of $1 million.
Exactly. And
Easy in
it's,
money. And
yeah.
a lot of these guys we've talked about right now, they're firmly on the fringe of going between top 30 and 40, 45.
Yeah, exactly. And then you've not even talked about the offensive playmakers in this game. Jeremiah
Willie
Smith,
McCoy, Ibuka.
Jeremiah Smith, Dillon Sampson. There's playmakers aloft on both sides of this ball. This could potentially be the game of the week. So my thoughts on this, because this will be our official predictions for the pick watch and that, because I know we did them last week, but you've got to look, where's the edge coming from here now. For me, I look at this. Donovan Jackson, he's playing at left tackle for them this year. I've had a look at him. He has struggled in pass pro in 3 games this year. Penn State, Indiana, and Michigan. And what do all three of those teams have? They have Abdul Carter, Mikael Kamara, and Mason Graham. All three of them are going to be playing high level ball on an NFL Sunday. He has struggled when coming up against future NFL talent. James Pierce Jr. is going to be lining up opposite him this week. I feel like that is a matchup that Tennessee can exploit big time if he's able to go after and get Howard. I've got Tennessee winning this. I think their ground game is going to be able to, get the job done. I think their run defense, like their secondary's got to be good, but their run defense is good enough. They can drop more people back to help in coverage with Jeremiah Smith. And I think they've got the difference makers on defense. I think it's going to be a tremendous game, but I feel like Pierce is going to have a field day against that left tackle. He's People saying he's a first round draft pick. He will be a guard because he's not a tackle. I know that much. So we'll see. But, going through all these stats and everything and thinking about it, where's your official prediction line for this Sunday?
I think this is going to be an ugly, scrappy defensive battle. I think both offenses can be nullified, but I have not seen anything this year to convince me that either Trayvon Henderson or Quinshon Judkins can put this game on their back. I think they will be limited. They'll be just plugging away 3, 4 yards of carry, and that's not where I'm going to put Walker Howard. I mean, Will Howard. I don't trust him in that scenario, and that opens him up to, turnovers. I think the Vols defense can cause a lot of problems for Ohio State. This feels to me like this will be actually quite a low scorer.
It does. It potentially does. And we've not even taken into account the fact that Ryan Day chokes when the lights are brightest. I think we vaguely mentioned it. Who needs the win more here? Josh Hoople or Ryan Day?
Uh,
Because I know you said Hoople might need it a bit more than I thought he did, but I feel like Day needs this desperately. Like he's out the door if they lose at home,
yeah, for
especially if
for
the
the
Tennessee
sake of if one of
crowd.
them's going to lose their job, Hooper won't lose his job if he
No,
loses this game because he's got to the playoffs with a brand new wet behind the ear quarterback.
but
Ryan Day
yeah,
went out and got the most experienced guy he could,
yeah. And if the
realistically, and
and
he went
he's
out and threw a load of money at Quinshon Judkins.
most expensive roster in the college
Yeah,
football.
if he loses here, then he's got to be gone.
I think he does, especially if Tennessee fans if you let your house get taken over by opposition fans because your fans don't care enough in the playoffs in a big game like this, and then you lose. I think that says everything you need to. That's all she wrote there for Ryan Day. So yeah, we got a Tennessee sweep in that one. Right, let us move this on. And next, we've got number 12 Clemson at number 5 Texas, and the winner of this gets an absolutely extravagant tie. They get to travel to Tempe to take on the Arizona State Sun Devils. So Ryan will be watching this with aplomb. And Ryan, I was absolutely gobsmacked when I learnt the fact that this is the first ever meeting between these two teams. You would think storied franchises like Clemson and Texas would have played one another in the past. They have never played one another before. However, their potential starting quarterbacks, in lieu of whatever happens to Quinn Ewers, they do have history. So Cade Klubnik and Quinn Ewers
Did
have
they meet
played
high
one
school by any
another.
chance?
They did. So they went head to head in high school during now let me get this right, the 2021 6A Division II State Championship. Klubnik was starter at Austin Westlake. Ewers was starter at Southlake Carroll. Supposedly two of the most dominant programs
Big
in
Texas
Texas
schools.
high school football. I don't know the scene well enough to confirm that, but anywho, Cade Klubnik won that encounter 52-34. So Ewers is going to be out for revenge. But, before we get into the stats of this one, right, I mean, I can't believe they've never played one another before. This is crazy, but again, potentially a great game, and you have a vested interest in this because you're going to play the winner of it.
Yep. Like I say, I'd much rather play one than the other, but I also think one of these teams is going to be massively overlooked because I already know one team's a pretty big favorite.
I think it's 11 and a half
Yeah,
points.
I think it's the biggest gap of all the quarters. Which, yeah. So, see, they both have got here very different ways. Texas has been consistent from the start of the year and dominant. Clemson started the year iffy. Cade Klubnik to me stunk for a couple of weeks, and then someone lit a match in them. And towards the end of the year, they got hot. And then when Clemson makes it to a title game, you don't rule them out, do you? Because they
No,
like the big when they get to the big dance, they're the one that gets the prettiest girl. They just know what they're doing. And for me, this is a fascinating matchup.
it is. So how does it, filter out? So let's go into some of the stats for this one again. So offense for Clemson, total offense, they are 12th nationally with 454.9 yards per game. Their scoring offense is 16th nationally with 35.5 points per game. Flip that to Texas. They are 18th in total offense with 445.4 yards per game. Their scoring offense is 25th, 33.6 yards per game. So Clemson have about a 10-yard advantage in total offense and about 2 points per game average advantage in scoring offense. When it comes to the defenses. Clemson have the worst defense of anyone in the playoffs, 66th in total defense, giving up 364.9 yards per game. Their scoring defense, also the worst of everyone in the playoffs. They're 35th, giving up 21.85 points per game on average. Flip that to Texas. Texas's total defense is third nationally. They give up just 250 yards of offense per game. Their scoring defense is even higher. It's second in the nation, giving up just 12.4 points per game. So that in itself tells a story, right? Clemson is slightly better offensively. Texas is moons better defensively. That is how they've got here to this point.
Yep. Cade Klubnik and let's say Phil Maffer and that have had to get into shootouts and outscore teams. Texas has basically defense has dominated, and it's just put Quinn Ewers in field position to win games, get stops, force punts. Texas gets the ball back in great field position. Cushy. Like I say, they don't need to march all the way down the field because they get the ball at a really good place to start. And in the red zone, barely anyone has touched Texas all year. Their secondary, like I say, and their linebackers and that have just been so good that they just force teams to go to field goals.
Exactly, they do. That's exactly what they do. So moving into the broken down offensive stats. So for Clemson, their rushing offense is 43rd nationally. They have 181 yards per game on the ground on average with 23 touchdowns. Their passing offense is 17th, so it's a top 20 unit, 274 yards per game and 34 touchdowns. Now flip that to Texas. Their rushing offense is 64th. So 164 yards per game and 21 touchdowns. Obviously, they lost both starters prior to the season, and they've had to make do with a higgledy-piggledy bit back there. Their passing offense, though, is 13th. 281 yards per game, 34 touchdowns. So two very similar stories, right? Two teams who throw it a lot more than they run it. Like there's about 50 places difference between them both with passing and rushing.
Yeah. Clemson have struggled to run it. Texas don't run it because they lost three of their start. Basically, they lost two starting running backs before the year, and then they got down to Quizma before
Yeah,
off blue. Like I said, Quizma's been a guy for, like, say, the end of the season. Yeah, and with guys like Isaiah Bond and Gunnar Helm, they're a throwing team.
yeah, exactly. They are. And then when it comes to defense, Clemson, they're 73rd in rushing defense, so they give up 150 yards per game and 14 touchdowns. Passing defense is 61st, so they give up 214 yards per game and 21 touchdowns on the season, so fairly average there. You move to Texas. They've got the 14th best rushing defense in the nation at just 106 yards per game and 11 touchdowns given up. But who, boy, you get to their passing defense, it's first nationally. Now, it gives up 143 yards per game and four touchdowns on the entire season. So you look at the matchup here. Clemson love to throw the ball more. Texas are the best team in the nation when it comes to defending the pass. And then you look at Clemson's defense, they're kind of equally vulnerable in both aspects. You feel like this is what really sticks out for you here as where there might be a difference between the two. The defensive stats are wild, but Texas's try throw on them, they'll pick you off.
Yep. Like I said, the matchup of guys like uh oh,
Bringing stool.
bringing Stowell, like I say, the tight end, and the Clemson freshman receiver.
Yeah, I keep forgetting his name, but he is really good.
Yeah. Bresco.
Yeah, that's it.
Wesco. Like
Wesco.
Wesco Jr. Him and Wesco Jr. against, like say, their top corner, or like say against someone like say The safety, like I say, is going to be a key matchup in one-on-one scenarios. Like I say, Cade Klubnik is going to have to be on his most accurate and best behavior.
Game of his life. You're gonna have to have the game of his life, and they're gonna have to run it enough so
Yeah,
that they're
Phil
not
Maffer's going to have
putting
to
him in.
soften them up.
Yeah, you can't put him in third and long situations and throwing that ball up because, outside of all the corners, you've got Jade Barron lurking back there as well. You really don't want that to happen. In terms of sacks and tackles for loss defensively, so Clemson, 34th in sacks with 33, 21st in tackles for loss with 90, so a lot of backfield pressure from them. Texas are 15th in sacks with 38. They're 12th in tackles for loss with 95. And then in terms of sacks allowed, and tackles for loss allowed. Clemson are 54th. They've allowed 22 sacks on the year. And then the 67th in tackles for loss allowed. They've allowed 71 on the year. In terms of Texas, they're 71st with sacks allowed. They've given up 28. And they're 118th in tackles for loss allowed. They've given up 89 on the year. Right. These are two teams who have so much production in the backfield from their defensive lines, and two teams whose offensive lines are creaky. So if you're looking for Clemson matchups here, it hurts them as well, but this is certainly one of the big bullseyes you go for on this Texas team. It gives up backfield plays.
Yeah, it's going to be, yeah, which one can avoid third and long? Yeah, it's going to be like, say, the second down players. They can't give up, like, say, screens and that. They can't. Who gives up, like, say, the bigger negative players? I think that they're going to have to get some very fruity play calling. You're going to want some jet sweeps. You're going to try want avoid throwing screens where you can easily get blown up and big tackles for loss. I think you have to spread the defenses out. There's going to be a lot of stretching, a lot of motions before the snaps. You don't want to be putting, like say, handing off to Phil Maffer 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage and asking him to get back and then make a play because, like say, Texas and those guys, they will get in the backfield. Like say, Matt Arthur, I think Danish safety guys like that, that coming into the box, their safeties, they play in the run support and their linebackers, some of the best linebacker play in the country. Like I say, against the run game, they will get in and they will, like I say, and they're looking for forced fumbles. They're looking to punch the ball out and rip it out.
Yeah, and that leads us on to probably Clemson's best chance here if you're looking for matchups. Turnovers. So, turnovers gained from both teams. Clemson have 25 on the year, which ranks 8th. Texas have 28, which ranks first nationally. So both teams, a ton of turnovers. However, turnovers lost. Clemson, they're ninth nationally. They've only got 9 turnovers all year. Texas are 113th with 22. Now, what does that do for their turnover margin? So Clemson are fifth in the year, fifth in the nation when it comes to turnover margin. They have plus 1.23 turnovers per game. So they get more than a turnover per game than they give up. When it comes to Texas, they're 35th. They only have plus 0.46 turnovers per game. So these are two teams, right, who love to take the ball away, but one of them is infinitely more better at ball security. And that is where you feel Clemson, if they're going to win this, that's where the shot's going to be. You've got to win that turnover battle, 2 or 3, +2 or +3 in your favor. And that is in their favor as the season shows.
Yep. This is what I base my decision off of. It comes down to in all the bad performances this year, like I say, what has Ewers done? Sloppy, terrible interceptions. When he gets flustered, he can be one of the worst quarterbacks in the country. He just can't shake it off. Do you know when he throws that first one? You just know a second one is coming eventually. Like I say, when he gets blinded and he gets blinkered, whereas Cade Klubnik, like you say, he has done a really good job all year. For a quarterback that throws the ball a lot more than Quinn Ewers, not putting it in harm's way. And yeah, I respect that. And these are the decisions I based who I thought will win this game off of.
Not looking at who's got the worst run defense and just praying you get them so Scat can ruin them. No, no, absolutely not. So, um, yeah, in So we talk about the quarterbacks, Cade Club, Nick Quinn Ewers, both guys who can potentially be very good on the day. And, you look, these teams, one's got an elite defense, both have elite defensive lines. That's where it can be won and lost. So with that in mind, going through all the stats and everything like that, who are you officially saying is going to win this one?
Clemson.
So Ryan is
Quinn
going
Ewers is
for
too
the
volatile.
Ryan's going for the Clemson upset. I can buy it. Like they say, the turnovers could be a big thing. And Arch Manning's breathing down his neck. I mean, I don't think they've officially declared the starter yet, but you got to figure you
Yeah.
might see
Um,
both of them.
yeah. Ewers, I think he'll start. But like I say, if he has a bad quarter, he comes out of the half and he's thrown an interception or two. Arch Manning, like I say, will be thrown in.
Yeah, they will indeed. So I am going to say Texas for this point. I just think that Texas defense is too good. And, well, Clemson, as you've mentioned, another thing, when they come to the dance, they've been to Natties before. Texas have not. Well, at least not in recent history. And we saw what happened against SMU. So could potentially be very good. Hopefully it is competitive. We will see. We've got two more to do. And now we've got the two surprise stories coming up. So the first one, SMU at Penn State. SMU, the Atlantic Coastal Conference runners-up after that heartbreaking loss to Clemson, getting in as the 11th seed. Penn State finishing second in the Big Ten this year. They get the number 6 ranking. This will be the first ever playoff game for both teams. Penn State have never been to the playoffs. SMU have never been to the playoffs, but they've been a group of 4 team for the majority of their existence. So, not surprising there. And again, this is only the third ever meeting between these two teams, and the last one was in 1978. That is a long time ago. Brent, tell us a fact about 1978. What was going on when that happened? Because Brent will know. Brent always knows. But yeah, this is a game 45 years in the making, something like that. But it is the plucky underdog against the constantly underachieving, not underdog, should be an overdog, but isn't. It's a very interesting matchup, this is. But this is what the playoffs were designed for. How do these two stack up against one another? So we'll go through the total and scoring offenses and defenses first. So for SMU, total offense, 20th nationally with 443 yards of offense per game. Scoring offense is 6th in the nation. They score a whopping 38.5 points per game. In terms of total defense, they're 28th. They give up 326 yards per game, and their scoring defense is 28th, so at least they're consistent. They give up 20.8 points per game. Flip this over to Penn State. Their total offense is 15th, 448.6 yards per game, so 5 yards per game more than SMU. The scoring offense, however, is 25th. They score 33.6 points per game, so full 5 points less than what SMU have managed on the year. But then here comes the defense. They're 6th nationally in total defense. They give up just 282 yards per game, and they're 8th nationally in scoring defense. So 16.3 points per game given up on average. So you look at these two here, right? SMU, explosive offense, puts up a lot of points. Penn State, good offense, puts up a lot of yards, not as many points. But then one of these teams is sporting an elite top 10 defense. The other is sporting a more modest top 30 defense.
Yeah. SMU likes to score fast, score heavy, and then it likes to come out the half and just rest on its laurels, bend, don't break. Whereas Penn State, from the very off, is trying to give a defendable lead. Like I said, they're trying to not ask too much of Allah. They're not trying to go out there and ask them to score 30, 35 points. They want to hold the team as much as possible and also control the clock. So yeah, like I said, Franklin's ethos is very much defensive based.
Oh,
Like I say,
yeah.
whereas the other side, like say Lashley, like say big splash plays, their return game, like say there's a lot of offensive weapons there that they like to get going very quickly. They're very aggressive. They will go for it on fourth down as well. Like they Whereas Penn State likes to play the long game. They care
Mm.
about field position. They care things about things like that, where they can be a little bit more reserved at times.
And SMU have got a backbone. Down 17 against Clemson, tied it up. So they're a team that you can never rule out. Just kudos to Brent here. 1978, he said, Iran hostage crisis while I was stationed in Germany. There you go. Whereabouts in Germany were you stationed, Brent? I would be interested to hear where you're at. Beautiful place. Right, where were we? So we're going into the breakdowns of the offense here. So for SMU, their rushing offense is 49th nationally. They have 176 yards per game average on the ground. They've got 29 rushing touchdowns. Their passing offense is 26th. They have 267 yards per game with 27 touchdowns. So a really balanced offense for them. Top 50 unit in both. For their defense. So their rushing defense is fourth in the nation. They give up 93 yards per game and just 10 rushing touchdowns. But then the passing defense is 91st. They give up 233 yards per game and 24 touchdowns. So there is a bit of a skew-if there. On Penn State's side, they're 19th in rushing offense. They have 202 yards per game and 28 touchdowns on the season on the ground. Their passing offense is 41st. 246 yards per game in the air, 27 touchdowns. Defensively, their rushing defense is ninth nationally, 104 yards per game, just seven rushing touchdowns given up on the year. Their passing defense is 16th. They give up 178 yards per game on average and 15 touchdowns on the year. So SMU, a bit more of a passing team, right? Penn State, bit more of a rushing team. Defenses, both sport elite run defenses, but one of them, as you can probably tell, it's been in shootouts. It's probably been ahead a lot. A lot of teams playing garbage against them. One of them statistically sporting a much worse passing defense than the other.
Yeah, the SMU secondary, it's not good. A lot of times, like I say, they've blown big leads or they've let teams march right back, or they've fallen behind early and managed to just pull a rabbit out of a hat and come out the second half and score tons of points. It's there to be had. It's very vulnerable. It gives up a lot of touchdowns. They don't do good at holding teams or getting stops in the red zone. It's their biggest flaw, and it's why they've gotten lucky at times this year because teams have come out and just gone all out air raid on them and had a lot of success. Whereas you look at the Penn State D, you just don't see really any chinks in their armor, do you? They're just so balanced. They just say, throw it, run it, like give us whatever you want. We've got an answer most of the time. So yeah, Penn State, they're just incredibly well rounded.
Yeah, absolutely. They are. In terms of sacks, tackles for loss, so SMU, they're 11th nationally with sacks. They've got 40 sacks on the year. Tackles for loss, they're 12th. They've got 95 tackles for loss on the season. Sacks allowed, they're 20th. They've only given up 15 sacks on the year for a team that passes it more than it runs. Tackles for loss allowed, they're 48th with 65. On Penn State's side, they're 34th in sacks. They've got 33 on the year. They're 19th in tackles for loss with 91. And then their offensive line, they've only given up 12 sacks on the year, which is good for 10th. They've only given up 47 tackles for loss on the year, which is 6th. This again, two teams who are incredibly dangerous on their D lines. It's what SMU's defense is built on this year. They have bullied teams like Pittsburgh and that completely out the way with that D line. But Penn State, we know what they're like. Their trenches are always dangerous. You've got Abdul Carter, who's one of the best edges in the game of football. And then when it comes to the offensive lines, both relatively good. Both protect their quarterbacks quite well. SMU not quite as good with the tackles for loss, but they're still a top 50 unit. It's still a good unit. The trenches, they feel quite even here. SMU's maybe a bit more explosive on the defensive side, but Penn State a little bit better on the offensive line side could maybe be a key matchup there.
Yeah, they both like you say, either side of the trenches benefit. The unit that does better on the day could ultimately have the deciding factor. It could take one strip sack fumble, or it could be one big hole gets opened for Singleton to go, and then that's all she wrote. Like those kind of like say those holes, like say how they're going to be filled and how well the D line holds up against what they want to run the ball.
Yeah, exactly. Indeed. When it comes to turnovers, SMU turnovers gained is 21. That's good for 26th nationally, but they've also turned it over 21 times, which is 106th in the nation. That means their turnover margin is 62nd. They're exactly average. They've given it away as much as they've taken it away. Penn State, they're 59th in takeaways. They've got 17 on the year. They're 24th when it comes to turnovers lost. They've only turned the ball over 12 times, which means their margin is good for 43rd. They have plus 0.38 turnovers per game. So again, very clear things here. That SMU team take the ball away a lot, but their offense gives it away a lot. Now, you have to factor in the early season turmoil at quarterback there. They gave it away a lot at the start of the season. They've been a bit better in recent weeks, but Penn State, they're steady. They don't give it away much. They don't take it away much, but critically, they don't give it away much. Feels like a slight advantage for Penn State here.
Yes, Penn State take less risks, and sometimes that can be mind-numbingly boring, where they're too overcautious and they don't just let it ride. But these are the kind of games where they might go even more ultra conservative. One giveaway in this game probably decides the outcome. SMU are going to have to rein it in. Like I say, they're going to have to pick and take their shots. They can't afford for any, like I say, because they give an interception away, could be a pick six, a fumble, like I say, and a bad handoff, like I say, Penn State D line, probably taking it to the house. That the turnover margin in this game will be massive.
It will indeed. In terms of the QBs who are coming up against one another, so Drew Aller coming back to school next year, which I think is a very good decision on his part. He will potentially be the top quarterback in the 2026 draft on the back of this. 2,894 yards at 70% completion on the year, 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. And then his counterpart, Kevin Jennings, he is at 3,050 yards this year. Considering he was in a rotation to start with, he's throwing 66% completion, 22 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. So you look at them and they're quite similar. They're very efficient passers, both over 65% plus when it comes to passing. Both turnover margin to touchdown is about 3-1 touchdown to interception ratio, which is healthy. Again, this Drew Aller's the big name and the one who might make draft ways, but in terms of a QB matchup in this, they're quite similarly styled, and it feels quite even between them.
Yeah, they've both got the potential for big plays, but the short to intermediate stuff, good completion, don't put the ball in harm's way too often. And they've got the decent arm, like I said, they can hit the deep ball if one of their guys gets open. But yeah, they pride themselves more on accuracy and moving the chains and just rhythm.
Yeah, you do.
Big
And
loss for
then,
Penn State though, because like I say, Bo Pribula, the backup, has got 11 touchdowns throwing and rushing this year, and he's
he
opted out.
has.
He's not playing.
He isn't. Well, obviously Drew's coming back, so he wants
Yeah.
to. He's got a visit to Indiana on Saturday. I hope
Like I
that
say, the fact that
happens.
the portal clashes, he's had to now because the
Yeah,
portal's going to close soon.
yeah.
He said, I've been forced to enter, like I say, because
But yeah, but I love that match. I think Indiana lose Curtis Rote this year, if I'm right. I think he's done. So getting Bo Pribula shows how far that program's come. He's
don't
still a
go to
very
Iowa.
good.
Don't
He's
go to Central
no,
Florida.
no,
I don't
no.
like
Don't
either of them fits.
don't go to any of those. Go to Indiana with Kurt Signetti and ignite your career, young man. There's a lot of fascinating battles in this. You look at the running backs. So you've got Nicholas Singleton, 838 yards, 7 touchdowns, and Katron Allen, 822 yards and 6 touchdowns on the Penn State side. But on the SMU side, you've got Brashard Smith, 1,270 yards and 14 touchdowns on the season. He's got 4 receiving touchdowns and 303 yards as well. He's got over 1,500 from scrimmage. Like SMU have their one top dog there, Penn State have their two in rotation, but you feel the winner as well, they're going to have to run the ball well, and these three are going to be the keys in there. Rashard Smith's got to have the game of his life, and Penn State have got to get their rotation right.
Yeah. Rashard Smith, he's small, isn't he? If I remember rightly, he's only like 5'8", 5'9". That Penn State D line, he's gonna have to find a way to. He's gonna have to play the most physical game I think he's ever had to play in. He's gonna have to find a. He's gonna have to use his slight size and advantage, and like I say, break some tackles. On the other side, like you say, when one back gets tired, they bring in the committee, and it just wears teams out. Like I say, which it's going to be the linebackers for me. Like I say, which linebacker can help their run support the most and force the opposition to have to throw the ball on a more consistent basis.
Yeah, and then I think the other big one I feel like here is going to be the battle of the D lines. Like this is crazy. SMU, Jafari Harvey, the defensive lineman, 7 sacks. Isaiah Smith at end, 6.5 sacks. Jared Harrison Hunter, D line, 6 sacks. Elijah Roberts, he's like the edge on there, 5.5 sacks. Cam Robertson on the D line, 4 sacks. Like they've got 4 or 5 genuine bona fide weapons on there, but then you're putting them against Abdul Carter, who is potentially a top 5 pick in this draft upcoming. He is, and maybe just as good as Micah Parsons coming into the NFL. He's got 10 sacks on the year, a whole host of forced fumbles and pass defenders and quarterback hits and stuff like that. But this feels like that rotation at SMU has to get home. They've got more weapons to attack Penn State with than Penn State have to attack them, and that's where SMU are going to have to win if they want a chance in this, right?
Yeah, like I said, but SMU defense, do they have an answer for Warren? Plays running back, plays full back, plays tight end. Like I said, if they don't get home fast and Drew Aller gets that ball out, you already know he's looking across the middle. He's going to hit Warren. And then how does the defense adjust? Have they got a tight end neutralizer? Can they bring the big guy down? He's going to be moving all around line of scrimmage. Going to have a lot of pre-snap motions trying to get him in a favorable matchup. You take away Warren, if you take away the tight end and you make him obviously they've got good receivers, but if you take away their now go-to guy and make Drew Aller go with second and third read, the pressure might be able to get home. Yeah,
Yeah.
you've got to find a way, like you say, to slow down and make him look elsewhere.
Exactly. So, with all that said, SMU at Penn State, SMU surpassed expectations all season long. They're playing with house money here. They've got a free shot to go and absolutely lay waste to Penn State. In the whiteout, Penn State, James Franklin needs this like a human needs oxygen because he needs to win a big game at some point in his career. And this is the easiest opportunity it's ever going to be. And Penn State, they're known for choking it in big games, just like Ohio State. Who wins SMU at Penn State, Ryan?
I'll take Penn State in a close game. I think SMU might get greedy, and they may be. I think Penn State win the turnover battle, and ultimately that'll be what it costs them.
I think this'll be this'll
Should be
be
it'll be an interesting match.
this will be Drew Aller's come out game. Like the game where because Drew Aller is good, but he needs a signature win on his belt. And I think this will be Drew Aller's because I think SMU might put 30 down on them and they will get dragged into a shootout. And Drew Aller's going to have to put his team on his back and show that he can do it when he needs to. Because this SMU team, they're going to get after him. They are going to give him a very tough afternoon. And I think it's going to be very close. And I hope it's going to be very close because this will affect seedings and playoff thinking going forward. I've got Penn State in a one-score win as well. But SMU are more than going to be worth their place here. And then
Also, pressure is a real thing.
it
Not an
is.
ounce of pressure on the Mustangs at all.
Nope. They can just go out there and play their best ball. And if they win, they win. If not, no one's going to bat an eyelid if they lose. They've had a wildly successful first season. No one's going to care. So yeah, go Rhett Lashley, go get them. And then the last one, we've got Indiana, the story of the season. at Notre Dame. This is number 10 at number 7. This is potentially one of the biggest games in Indiana history. Another team who is appearing in the playoffs for the first time. And as we mentioned, this is a program that's not even won a bowl game since 1991, let alone go to a playoffs. And 1991, strangely enough, was the last time these two teams played one another. So this game is 33 years in the making for Notre Dame. Like Penn State, they've not won a playoff game in the post BCS era, and it's a while since they've won a game, a big game since they won the whole thing, about 20 years ago now, whatever it was. This will be their third appearance, but in their last two appearances, they've been blown away by an aggregate score of 61-17 by Clemson and Alabama. So they've wildly disappointed, although Indiana are neither of those teams. But this is a local rivalry in the scheme terms of things, Ryan. But let's have a look how they match up for this final one. So we start with the offense and the defense. So total offense, Indiana ranked 25th. They have 438.8 yards per game. In scoring offense, they are second in the nation, 43.3 points per game. When it comes to defense, they're second nationally, just 244.9 yards per game given up. And in scoring defense, they're sixth nationally. They give up just 14.6 points per game on average. When you come to Notre Dame, their total offense is 40th. They have 421 yards per game on average. But then their scoring offense is third in the nation, 39.8 points per game. Defense, they're ninth in total with 297 yards given up per game. They're third in scoring defense, 13.58 points per game. Now, everyone's immediately going to shout, strength of schedule, yada, yada, yada. But what you've got here, you've got you've got two of the top three scoring offenses in the nation, and you've got two of the best defenses in the nation. Between them, they're averaging a median of about 14 points per game given up, and neither of them are doing it with the most yardage in that. They're only 25th and 40th in total yardage. So efficient offenses that score heavy, backed up by terrific defenses. This has the making of a real ding-dong game, regardless strength of schedule out the window.
Yeah, this is the most intriguing matchup of the fall because you've got two teams all year that have not had the most luck. Like say, they've both had questionable matchups. They've both had their strength of victory and the caliber of the teams they've played called into question. But it doesn't mean every week they haven't absolutely crucified them, put them to the sword, and silenced all the doubters. And yeah, they've both got new quarterbacks. They've both got a host of new players, and they've all gelled in really well. And yeah, there's just some genuine next level talent on both sides of the ball. These, and yeah, they have scored when they've wanted to, very heavily at times.
Oh, absolutely. And as you dive down into the stats, these are even more fun to go after. But I mean, this starts right at the very top. You've got Kurt Signetti, who is an elite offensive mind. You've got Marcus Freeman, who is an elite defensive mind. Like these are two incredibly talented head coaches who are going to be going at one another here. But in terms of their offensive and defensive breakdowns, so for Indiana, their rushing offense is 51st nationally, 174 yards per game, but 37 rushing touchdowns against a passing offense which is 29th, 265 yards per game, and 31 touchdowns. They've got 68 tutties on the year, this team do. Their rushing defense, it's the best in the nation, bar none, first. They give up 71 yards per game on the ground. They've given up 10 rushing touchdowns on the year. Passing defense is ninth nationally. It's 174 yards per game, 10 touchdowns on the season. When it comes to Notre Dame, their rushing offense is 10th nationally, 225 yards per game, 40 40 rushing touchdowns alone. Between these two teams, you've got 77 rushing touchdowns this season. Their passing offense, though, it's 101st, 196 yards per game, 19 touchdowns. Then their defense, they're 51st when it comes to rushing defense, so they give up 140 yards per game. They've given up 11 rushing touchdowns. But then the passing defense, it's the third best in the nation. They give up just 160 yards per game through the air, and they've given up just 9 touchdowns through the air. And I mean, the matches here, Ryan, are fascinating. You have got Indiana's best rushing defense in the nation coming up against a 40 touchdown rushing offense. You've got a 31 touchdown passing offense from Indiana coming up against the third best passing defense in the nation. These are two. Indiana's defense is elite at the rush. Notre Dame's is elite at the pass, and then vice versa. Passing defense is ninth for Indiana against the 101st ranked passing offense for Notre Dame. I look at this and people will go Notre Dame are the better team. They've got more NFL talent, strength of schedule, etc., etc., etc. But Indiana stack up well against them where it matters. Notre Dame have gone back to what they're known for, running the ball deadly and effectively. And this D-line for Indiana has been amazing all year against it. I find this a fascinating matchup.
Yeah, because we know what Notre Dame's bread and butter is. We know what they're good at. We know what they want to do. And they've been drawn and come up against a side that has had a lot of success against that this year. And the Fighting Irish, if you take away their run game, what are they? Like, what is Riley Leonard? If you take away the run game completely, what can they amount to? You put all the pressure on him and, like, say, the receivers and that. How dangerous are they? If you just nullify the run game at all, we could potentially find out.
Exactly. This stacks up well in terms of Indiana. In terms of sacks and tackles for loss, Indiana are 20th nationally in sacks. They've got 34. They're 16th in tackles for loss. They've got 86. In terms of sacks allowed, they're 44th. They've given up 18. In terms of tackles for loss allowed, they're top 20. They're 20th. They've only given up 49 tackles for loss all year. Notre Dame, they're 36th in sacks. They've got 30 on the year, but they're 88th in tackles for loss. They only had 61. But then when it comes to sacks allowed, they're 24th. They've only given up 15. When it comes up to tackles for loss allowed, they're 22nd. They've only given up 50. So both teams love to get sacks. Indiana love the tackles for loss. That's the elite run defense there. They got, 25 more than Notre Dame have. But then both of them, they're pretty good at protecting their quarterback. They're pretty good at limiting the tackles for loss as well. So this shows good trenches. But surprisingly, Indiana's D-line, I think maybe a little bit better.
Yeah. As a whole, when you think about getting to the quarterback and also just plugging holes, just making runners bounce outside, and then, like say, when they do that, the linebackers and the safeties flow down, and they're able then to crash down in support. Like say, just getting guys going horizontally, not vertically, because their D line just blows up plays, and it just creates broken plays, and that constant pressure is a big thing that the Huskies have done consistently all year. They don't have to be the guy that makes a tackle, but as long as they force the guy to change direction and go the other way and someone else does, then yeah, they can wreck your game plan.
Yeah, exactly. They can. And then we get to turnovers. This paints a fascinating picture as well. These two teams are both top 5 nationally in turnover margin. So Indiana, they've gained 23 turnovers this year. They've given the ball away 8 times. Only one team in college football has given it away less this year. They are second nationally. That means on average, their turnover margin is plus 1.25 per game. So 1.25 takeaways more than they give up in a game. But then Notre Dame, they are the top team in the country with turnovers, 28 turnovers this year, although it felt like 20 of them came against Navy. They're 24th when it comes to turnovers lost with 12, but that gives them a turnover margin of plus 1.33 per game. So Ryan, Indiana, 23 and 8 when it comes to turnover to interceptions, 28 and 12 for Notre Dame. Notre Dame take the ball away more, but Indiana give it away a lot less. This feels like this Indiana team, their ball security, their ball takeaway is good. Both teams, it's really good. But again, a facet where Indiana are just a little bit more better with the ball.
Yeah, see they give it away less, but that's the matchup for me. It's Curtis Rock who never gives it away against a secondary that could very quickly make his numbers not look so good. Like I say, if he just leaves something hanging out there, or he just doesn't look him off, someone like Watts. Next thing you know, he's got 2, 3 interceptions. Like you say, the ball's going the other way. So yeah, the secondary of Notre Dame for me will be the big factor. The D line, the run game of Indiana, and then the corners and safeties of Notre Dame. How uncomfortable can they make Curtis Rock feel? Can the receivers get enough separation? Right, so can they win their battles and help Curtis out, or is he going to be always constantly throwing into traffic? Because if he is, that'll be a bad place to be in.
It will be indeed. Looking at the quarterback matchup, so Indiana's quarterback, Curtis Rourke, 2,827 yards this year, 70.5% completion, 27 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions. That's 6-1 to his ratio there. He's got a QB rating of 181.4. On Notre Dame's side of the ball, you got Riley Leonard. He's thrown for 2,092 yards at 66.2% completion, 16 touchdowns, just 5 picks. Again, another matchup. Two quarterbacks who are incredibly efficient throwing the ball. Curtis Rourke's had to do more, and a 6-1 touchdown to interception ratio. I know the Ohio State game, his stats were right down there, but they've played that game now. They've got the tape in the bank. They're used to playing in big games now. This feels again another good quarterback matchup, but Curtis Rourke certainly is not here to make up the numbers when it comes to Riley Leonard. He can be just as good as him.
Oh, he's been better. Curtis Rock has outplayed Riley Leonard this year, and I don't care who he's played against. When it needs to be, he's been better. Like I said, Riley Leonard has also benefited from field position. All the turnovers when Riley Leonard often gets the ball, he might only have to go 40, 50 yards.
Mm.
He might not have to go the whole length of the field. So it just feels like his numbers were just never going to be as high as most quarterbacks because the defense has just been so good, puts him in great positions. So yeah, I've not seen many games where Riley Leonard has gone out there and been the factor, the reason they've solely won.
Yeah, he's had a lot of run game to bank on this year. And then again, you look into some of the areas here. So again, this is fascinating running back pairings. On one side, you've got Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, who've just had Jeremiah Love, especially. He's at 15 touchdowns on the year on the ground, nearly 1,000 yards. Jadarian Price is at 650 with 7. But Indiana, they're no scrubs when it comes to this. Justice Ellison, 811 yards, 10 touchdowns. Tyson Lawton, 634 yards, 12 touchdowns. These are two dangerous running back pairings, and you kind of feel like the pairing who comes off with the best stats in this, that's certainly going to go a long way towards who win this game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Like I said, it feels like the team that gets no turnover. It feels like I say, minus or +1 turnover. Very well would be the deciding factor between a team that takes it away a lot and one that never wants to give it away.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the coaches, like I say, how aggressive will the coaches be? You've got an offensive coach, and for the most part, you've got a defensive coach. Like you say,
Yeah.
the fourth downs, who's going to punt? Who's going to go for it? Who's going to live for the next down? Who's going to roll the dice? I feel like there'll be some big calls made on both
Yeah.
sides of the ball.
Absolutely. And then the other playmakers there, like Indiana, you got to say, got the better receivers. Elijah Sarrett, 900 yards, 8 touchdowns. And Mark Cooper, he's at nearly 600 this year. Notre Dame's receivers have not been as good. They've got Jaden Greathouse, who's been all right, and they've got Mitchell Evans, who's a better tight end than what Indiana have. But, it does feel like the skill players. Indiana got some really good ones there. But then this is where it comes down to, right? You come against two really great defensive lines again. And, you have to start off with Indiana's. I've raved about him all year. Mikhail Kamara, one of the many transfers from James Madison this year. He's grading out at 90 on PFF this year. 10 sacks, 17 quarterback hits, 34 hurries. But you've got tons of guys on here with him. You've got CJ West, you've got James Carpenter, who's the nose tackle. 33 pressures on the year. Linnell Carr, the other edge, 30 pressures on the season. You've got a good linebacking core. Jalen Walker, who's in there, who's been great for them this year. You've got Elijah Hardy, who's played well in relief for them recently. And then on the Notre Dame side of the ball, they've got really good guys as well. And when it comes to their defense, you've got Riley Mills, 6.5 sacks on the year. You've got Howard Cross, the third. He's got four. One of the best interior defensive pairings in the entirety of college football. But then maybe where it comes down, they've had in recent years, because you like your Notre Dame edges. They don't have a standout guy there this year. They're doing well standing up against the run. They're not getting home as much. Like Notre Dame's got the flashy names on their line and they got two amazing D tackles, but Indiana has the depth across all four positions, and you've seen with all the stats they've got this year, they're bloody dangerous. And Mikhail Kamara is one of the most underrated prospects in all of college football. This is going to also be big, right? Right? We talk about run games and that, but D lines, the D line that wins probably wins this game because Indiana's going to need its D line to play out of its mind, its best game ever to win this. But if they do, they can.
Yeah. Indiana, I think Indiana can do a better job of bringing pressure up the middle. Like I said, Kaepernick got a nose tackle that can go up and just occupy two people. Like I say, it can be a nuisance. It can then create holes for guys like behind him, the backers and that. Whereas Notre Dame, like I say, if they want to go around the outside and come round and then, like you say, try sandwich the quarterback, the line which gets the quarterback to scramble will win the game. Because Curtis Rourke and Riley Leonard, they want to be in the pocket, don't they? They want to be nice and cushed in the pocket and they want to stand and they want to deliver. If you're making them step up or you're making either of them roll out and try throw on the run, if you're doing that consistently, I think that's where you will win the game. You got to, yeah, you have the team that collapses the pocket, and like I said, the team that gets enough pressure on the quarterback, gets in the passing lanes, gets hands on them, they'll be the one that comes out victorious.
Absolutely. But they have to keep it away from that Notre Dame secondary.
Don't go anywhere
Xavier
near Xavier Watts, anyone like that. Like you say, they're just like bloodhounds.
Five interceptions, including a pick six, 136 return yards off those, nine passes defended, forced fumble, fumble recovery, 50 tackles, tackles for loss. You got Adon Schuler at safety, who's got three interceptions as well. Christian Gray, Leonard Moore have got pairs apiece. Like, there's some decent ones in Indiana. You've got D'Angelo Pons. He's their really good corner. He's got two interceptions, seven pass breakups. You've got Amari Ferrell, the safety, who's got four as well. Those star names, like, we don't even mention Benjamin Morrison or anyone like that for Notre Dame yet. Like their secondary is insanely talented. So if you're Curtis Rourke, you've got to be careful. You've got to be accurate and you've got to stay away from these guys because that's where Indiana could lose this game quickly if their offensive drives keep getting stalled by these guys.
Yeah. Like you say, Riley Leonard, like you say, the Notre Dame offense, if you give it a short enough field, it'll punch it in, it'll score very comfortably. Like I say, you can't be throwing it in double coverage, you can't be underthrowing balls. Like I say, it's going to be deadly accurate, or it's going to have to be only it's going out of bounds or only your guy can get it. I feel like a lot of stuff will be thrown towards the sidelines. I can't see Curtis Rock bombing it down the middle towards the posts. You're just
No.
asking for trouble with their safeties.
Yeah, you've got to run the ball. You've got two good running backs. You've just got to run it enough and then use your two elite receivers. You've got two elite receivers, so go use them. They should be, and this will be a good test for Surratt. Like, he's had such a good season and he's one of those maybe not getting looked at by a lot of people, but his is one whose his star could be shining by the end of this weekend if he has a 100+ yard game. Who knows? We'll see. But the most important question at the end of all this, right? Who wins? Notre Dame are overwhelming favorites. They're at home, and you've got to figure they've got all the star names, they've got all the star players, and everyone would be expecting them to win. But Indiana, this is if it's like SMU, they've nothing to lose, they've nothing to prove to anybody. Maybe they want to keep it a bit more competitive than the Ohio State game to show they belong at the next level. But for year one of Kurt Signetti, he's done more than anyone could have ever dreamed. And, this will still be, even if they lose, this is still a wildly successful season for them. So they can kind of go out there and just lay it all on the line. And we didn't even talk about the two head coaches yet. I say one great offensive mind, one great defensive mind. This may come down to coaching as much as anything else, but who wins ultimately? Is there an underdog story here, or is it going to be the end for Indiana for this year at least?
I have to fight in Irish, purely based off one of the secondary will find a way to impact the game. I just feel like it won't be Rourke's fault, a tipped pass, something like that. Those guys that, yeah, turnovers, like I said, those guys that can just make big plays that kill drives and even potentially take it the other way for a score. I just feel like the Fighting Irish have more of them than the Hoosiers do.
See, I feel like I've been very not emotional with these, but I feel like I've been very sensible with my picks so far. I think this is the one time I'm going to let it get the better of me. I love a lot of these Indiana plays, especially when it comes to draft circles. I want to believe that this D-line can go out there and put on a performance that's going to make everybody in the nation go, oh my God, these guys really are good. I want to see Mikael Camera go out there and smash it. And I want this story to continue. I think Indiana can go there and cause an absolutely massive upset. I think I know that Ohio State game was bad, but they've learned from that now. They've not played any high profile games in decades because they've just been a trash team. This is a team that a lot of it's playing at the Power Four for the first time. They were brutally exposed in that game, but they've got the run defense to keep this Notre Dame team in check. That's their bread and butter. The matchups favor, or at least give them a chance, not favor them, but the matchups give them a chance. Have me on Indiana for the upset. And that is that for the playoff talk. And I didn't think we were going to take that long talking about four games, but somehow we did. So what we're going to have to do, we were going to do some draft talk today, but probably going to have to can that till the next show now because we've got to get out of here so I can get the Bears show ready. So we will. Next time we're back, I don't know when we'll be back because obviously a week today is Christmas, and I'm pretty sure Ryan, like me, wouldn't want to do a podcast on Christmas Day because he'll be in trouble with his missus and his family. So we will be back next week. Probably at a different day, though. We'll see how our schedules sync up. As always, we are moving into draft season now, so if there is anything you want us to do draft wise, I'm starting all my tape viewing this week for guys I like and stuff like that. So if there's anyone you want us to look at, go for it. I've just upgraded my membership on Caddy, so I can ask for players now as well. So if you want me to ask for tape for anyone, I can do that as well. But me and Ryan will quite happily do those assignments for you. That's what we are here for. And the next show, of course, we'll review the first round of the playoffs. We will preview the second round of the playoffs, where Arizona's state come into the equation, which is going to be fun. Of course, we'll let you know what goes on with the FCS playoffs. And will there be lots of other stuff in there, but we will do a draft segment in the next show, I promise you. I just didn't realize four games would take us so long to go through. Is there anything else you want to mention before we get out of here today, Rye?
Nope. Like I
No.
say, the portal is going crazy.
Oh yeah, I should probably just mention that Dillon Tyneman, star safety from Purdue, has gone to Oregon. I named the show after him, Dillon Duck. So I'm very happy about that one. I would have liked to have seen him with Caleb Downs at Ohio State, but Oregon better than Ohio State. So, yeah, well done for them. Dillon Tyneman's going to be an absolute monster for them. We'll go through more portal moves next time as well. In terms of next shows, we're going to be back in about half an hour with the Main Lines podcast. So come back and join us for that. Really appreciate all of you who have joined us this evening. Mile Marker, Grandizer, Brent, all you. We appreciate the hell out of you all. We will see you again in a week. You can find us at Roar of the Lines UK all over the internet. So just type it in, you'll find us. And there we are. Appreciate you all. We'll see you next week. Thanks ever so much, Ryan. One Pride.
Recording stopped.